outcry is prompt, it is sustained, the disgust is palpable, and the security forces are called upon and urged to pull out all stops to bring the perpetrators to justice. Not that alone. The Minister of National Security turns up to comfort the grieving Caucasian. The Commissioner of Police turns up to comfort the Prime Minister himself turns up to comfort the grieving Caucasian. Black Lives Matter. And once again, while our condolences, because no life should be snuffed out in the wicked ways in which lives are snuffed out, or in any way in Jamaica. But it is an indictment on the nation. It's an indictment on the country. It's an indictment on the Minister of National Security. It's an indictment on the Prime Minister. If the only lives that matter to you by your public show of outrage and condolence says at the same time are the Caucasian or the Chinese lives, then that's an indictment on you. Black Lives Matter. The masses of the Jamaican people matter. Over 1,000 killed yearly. And we hear no such outcry. As a matter of fact, we don't even see you. Unless, of course, you're in the opposition and part of your ploy is to use the grief of the survivor and the relatives of the victim to make a point so that you will be voted in next time. So you show up like carrions. You show up like crows. At that time, you show up only to feed of the dead. What does that make you? The kind of apathy towards the ongoing black slaughter creates a perfect environment to sustain this evil. Let us not underestimate the psychic trauma that is left in its wake, that's allowing the less mindful of the race to participate in their own destruction. Black Lives Matter. Two Nigerian citizens burnt. Two Nigerians living in Jamaica for a long time, so most likely Jamaican citizens now. But two Nigerians burnt beyond recognition. Barely made the news. Two young men barely made the news. And their characters, solid, tried in the minds of the public because they're Nigerians, sentenced again in the minds of the public and the minds of Jamaican and the minds of those who should ensure justice because they're Nigerians. I want to talk about those two young men who were burnt to death in a minivan. Left by the way, they were Nigerians in Jamaica. One, the son of Nigerians who have been living in Jamaica for a very long time. The Abba came to Jamaica because Jamaica drew him. Tried in the minds of the public who will hate their own. So there is outrage at the killing of the Caucasians, and there is outrage at the killing of the Chinese. But the Nigerians are tried in the minds of the masses and the minds of the private sector and the minds of the authorities. If not the mind of the government, let us look at this very closely. There is no outrage. And the parents are left struggling with how come? How come we haven't seen the Minister of National Security? How come we haven't seen the Prime Minister? How come we haven't heard from the Commissioner of Police? How come? And we too are foreigners. Yes, they are. Because that is how we view them. But they are foreigners of a different hue. They're human. And that is why we're going to have to look at the humanness again. You know, it's an interesting thing because there's a struggle. There's a struggle to get information even from the police. And there is no talk about these young men. A Nigerian couple, Black Lives Matter. So those are those two young men. We know their names and we'll call their names. They're two couples, a Nigerian couple, married, living in Jamaica for years, in St. Anne, Bamboo St. Anne, elderly, retired, pounced upon, shot multiple times, husband killed, the wife severely wounded, flown out of a country, barely made the news. They are known in their community as peaceful, hardworking, respectable. They too have been judged in the eyes of a nation because they're black, because they're Nigerian. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter. We know their names. It's a stain on the conscience of Jamaica. It's a stain on our conscience. It's an indictment on the nation. It's the only time we can feel pain for others. It's the only time we can empathize and sympathize and grieve with others. Is those times, or are those times, when the others are really the other. Critical reflection. It's a society, Jamaica is a society that needs to stop and reflect for a moment. Critical self-reflection. We need to stop and reflect for a moment on who we are, what we have become, what we are becoming, and the guidance, the leadership, the leaderfulness that is needed on this one thing cannot be underestimated. And a leader of a nation who will comfort The widow of a Caucasian is right in comforting, but you must also comfort the widow of an African. You must comfort the mother of an African boy. You must comfort the mother of a young girl whose daughter was viciously murdered. You must comfort the public show and the media cameras and the news teams that turn up when a white man is killed in Jamaica, but is nowhere to be seen when 2 Nigerian young boys are burned to death and left on the wayside, but is nowhere to be seen when a Nigerian couple is pounced upon and shot multiple times, killing the elderly husband. It's a society that has turned against itself. It's a society that is cannibalistic, and that is why we all must understand our responsibilities. We all must understand our roles. We are all to be blamed in this one thing, that we will cry for the white babies who die in America, but the girls of Chibok who were viciously captured and viciously raped, turning up one by one with babies on their hips, mean nothing to us. We must reflect on who we are and why it is that it's so easy to cry for the others and not for our families, not for ourselves. What have we become and what are we becoming? We must ask that question. We have no choice but to ask that question. You're inside of the Africa Forum. We've got a lot to get through. We've got a whole lot to get through. We hope to talk this morning to some who did not turn a blind eye, who are not turning a divergent gaze. And Tracy, if you just tell me, what have we learned from the Odunfos? Because we need to speak with some of the relatives. We don't have much on our Nigerian brother and sister, the elderly couple shot up in Bamboo. We don't have much on them. We have from the police that it's an ongoing investigation, and that is all. As we told you, the husband has died. March 2016, a Nigerian man and his wife were in their home in Free Hill in Bamboo, St. Anne. That's where the couple was shot multiple times. The man, 60-year-old Edward Omoroji, from Nigeria, living in Jamaica for a very long time. He later succumbed to his injuries. His wife was admitted to hospital in critical condition. She later left the island. And we know there are many speculations that the couple was shot in a dispute over land. The St. Anne police said that they are unable to divulge any information at this time as investigations are ongoing. And we've been calling around and asking around, and I know that this couple, they have been judged in the eyes of a nation. They have been judged in the eyes of a community. They have been judged harshly and wrongly, but only because they're black, and worse because they're from the continent of Africa. In the case of the 2 young men, their burnt remains, Prince Ohia was 27 years old. Mofolumiso Odunfo, also called Chris. They were found in a silver Nissan urban minibus in Ashton District, Westmoreland on March 6, 2016. Both men are Nigerian. Chris was a student at UCC College, where he was studying information technology. He also sold goods, fruits and vegetables to hotels. We understand that he had actually gone out to buy pineapples in Black River. We'll hear more about that. He has been buried, was buried on April 23. Prince O'Hare is not yet buried. We understand that the parents of Chris, the father in particular, who is a pathologist here in Jamaica, has been calling the police, but has been unable to get any information on the vicious murder of his son. We want to talk to Mrs. Odunfo, who is a mother of Chris, and I hope that she's able to talk this morning. We also want to talk to the Good Samaritans, the Good Africans here in Jamaica, who are ensuring and working with the parents of Chris and the girlfriend of Prince O'Hare, providing comfort and reaching out. Activist and continental African who is married to a Jamaican, Nana Ama Emilia Marie Lynch. You may also know her as Mama Aura. She has been working tirelessly. All right, let me know what's happening with the Odunfos. Are we able to get Mrs. Odunfo, Mrs. Deborah Odunfo on the line? We'll talk to Mrs. Lynch. We're trying to get Mrs. Odunfo. She was scheduled to be with us this morning in the studio, along with Teo Odunfo, who is a brother of Chris Odunfo. We are not able to get you, so if you're able to hear us, if you're hearing us, please give us a call. We're also going to talk to Nikki, who is a girlfriend of Prince O'Hare. So we want to hear. They're going to be giving us some information, talk to us about their grief and their pain and their frustration with the system that has turned a divergent gaze away from their pain and their grief. In the program this morning, we're also going to be talking to Colonel Ferron up there in Akampong on another matter, because he has just returned with a group, Colonel Ferron Williams, from Ghana and from the Ashanti Kingdom in Ghana. We want to talk to him about that. Also this morning, we're going to be speaking with Professor Tunde Biwaji. He's heading out to Nigeria, and we'll also be hearing from him regarding the Multidisciplinary Symposium Festival of African Traditional Indigenous Music, Simpo Fest. He's heading out shortly for that. Amina Blackwood Meeks, our sister, will be joining us also on the phone lines. Amina was just honored by the Ministry of Education here in Jamaica. She's been doing great work in education, culture in education, in storytelling, and so much more. The teachings of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey in school, a work that needs great attention for it to be continued, so the continuity is important. We're also going to be talking this morning to Afua Fufie, Pan-Africanist, about the Run China Run Jamaican campaign that's happening, we told you, in July, from New York City to Panama, July to November. And also on the phone lines, Kaylan Atman, who's one of the participants for the Run China Run Jamaican campaign 2016. Mayor Desmond Gilmore join us later for a quick look at the Labor Day project. This morning we're also unveiling our tribute, our upcoming tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. And our very special guest on the phone lines this morning will be Dr. Umar Johnson. Dr. Umar Johnson, of course, is well known. He's a doctor of clinical psychology and certified school psychologist who is an expert on the education and mental health of African children. He's author of the new book, Psycho-Academic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. He also holds degrees in education and political science. He'll be one of the lecturers at the IRFM's annual tribute to Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey on August 21 here in the courtyard of IRFM. Also to tell you quickly that we're also going to be joined in studio. We're partnering with the Roots Foundation based in Florida. And against that background, we're going to be joined in studio by Dr. Michael Barnett, Director of Roots Foundation and President of Tafari, which is the Association for Africans Reclaiming Identity. And we're also going to be joined by the President of the Roots Foundation, Jadi, will be joining us in studio. Once again, as I said before, we are partnering with them. Also on the phone lines this morning, as we celebrate and unveil our tribute to Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey coming up for August 21. We're going to be hearing from Sankofa Pan-Africanist of Ubuntu Theatre Ensemble. And this cultural group, they're actually coming in for Garvey celebrations and will be here to perform as part of the tribute. They're going to be in Jamaica from August 15, actually. 16 children, 10 adults. We'll hear from our brother Sankofa in Canada. They're coming in from Canada. He'll join us on the phone lines as we unveil this morning our upcoming tribute to Morlemu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Going to take a quick break. We come back and we'll speak to Colonel Farron Williams. Colonel Williams, Akwaba.
Good morning, ma'am. And how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I am good.
Listen, man, you're supposed to be very, very good. You're just coming back from a continent.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
All right.
Let me say welcome to all our listeners, both here and, in the diaspora.
Of course.
They always follow us.
Of course.
Yes.
All right, Colonel, tell me a little bit about this, because we've been talking about it. You've just returned from a continent, but tell me what led to you and the group from Jamaica going into Ghana. How did that come about?
Okay. It was actually organized by a man by the name of Timothy McPherson, a Maroon, and he is a part of the Pan-African group, and he is mostly over in the continent.
Yes.
So he organized it, and I accept the invitation from the king of the Ashanti.
Mm-hmm.
That's King Tutu II.
Right, King Tutu II, and of course the Asante Hines. Just our listeners understand that these are phrases that we should really be having rolling off our tongues. So how many from Jamaica went? Because I understand it wasn't just from Jamaica. There are groups that persons came from different places. There were 11 of you in all? Seven of you in all.
Well, other persons from other Maroon settlement, maybe from Sudbury, like over in Nova Scotia and so on.
Yes.
But from Jamaica, 7.
7 from Jamaica. Okay, great. And do you quickly want to tell me who the 7 were?
The names, yes. I can
Yes, that's
tell
what I
you.
want. Yes, that's what I want.
And the reason how we come about by choosing these 7 is you have to have visa either to go to Europe or to America.
Isn't that a sad thing? Isn't that a sad thing to get back to our homeland, to get out to the continent of Africa? You really do have to go through America or through Europe. It is such a terrible situation, but it is what it is. So who
remember that the Black Star Line did not kick off.
Right, but
if the Black Star Line had kicked off, then we might could have to go through.
Yes, we have to ensure that we kick it off. Yes, Colonel. Yes. Yeah, you are going to tell me who are the members of the group, the delegation that went?
Okay, yeah, of course. Myself, Timothy McPherson, Fulcroft, then Tony and Williams, Nobody Wilson, then I want to tell you the name.
Okay, all right. The names are not so important. I thought you had them right. It's okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. So when did you actually land in Ghana?
On the 22nd. We leave Jamaica the 28th, and we land the 22nd.
Which month?
Last month.
Last month. All right. And give me, was this your first time? I don't think this was your first time. Was this your first time?
Yes, it was my first time to the motherland.
Oh, wow.
It was.
Wow. What was your first impression?
Oh, I can tell you it was a wonderful experience.
Mm-hmm.
You mean reading and actually seeing for yourself.
Yes.
It's overwhelming.
Oh, man, I can just imagine.
Yeah. You know, evil places that our forefathers were shipped from.
Yes.
The amount of things that you would have seen. I just reading alone cannot open your imagination.
Yes.
But, you know, go and actually look at it. Visit in these sites. Mm-hmm. I can tell you it's something I would want. Not only Maroons to experience, but in fact the whole Jamaica.
Yes, of course.
Will be a better place.
Right.
You know,
yes.
Knowing what we have gone through
mm-hmm.
and where we are heading now.
Yes.
It would be.
So you landed in Accra, of course. And,
the 22nd.
The 22nd, and then you went on to Kumasi because you went to the.
Of course, yes. We went to Kumasi. Mm-hmm. 23rd, no, the 22nd. After landing, we went to Kumasi. I tell you, the reception was so great.
Wow.
I knew that Maroons are good at reception, you know, we are very receptive.
I'm welcoming. Yes.
It went beyond.
I know.
It went beyond. In fact, we were treated like real king royalty.
Yes.
From the moment we land until our departure.
Wow.
We have police siren escorting us wherever. All these roads were blocked off. And, you know, we were really treated like royalty. Right. Like what we were.
So you were actually there to, you actually got there at a time when there was a big festival, a big celebration happening. Was there a Durbar? Did you attend a Durbar?
Of course.
Yes.
Yes.
You want to talk to how big was the Durbar? Was it a very, very big one?
This one was maybe about 15 or 20,000 persons.
That's big, yes.
Yes. Came out, and we were told that wasn't the big one.
No, that wasn't the big one, but the big.
that wasn't the big one, but
that's true. Yes.
And even the president of Ghana came to meet us.
All right. It sounded as if this was really a high-level meeting, and the fact that you actually was there at the invitation of the Asantehene. I want to ask you a little bit about the celebration and ceremonial part. We know that took place and warming to the heart, but there was also some other aspects of it which included business now, talking about the continued networking and communication and connection between the Asante Kingdom and the Akampong Maroons by extrapolation and Jamaica. Talk to me about that. What happened there?
Okay. The King described the meeting as a very important unification.
Mm-hmm.
Telling us traveling and tracing our path back to Africa. He said, "These are my people."
Yes.
You know, that word strike me. These are my people. I mean, this statement on a whole, you know, it makes one feel to be a part of our ancient persons.
Yes.
Take into consideration that we went as far as to the Cape Coast. That's where our ancestors shipped from.
Right, to the Cape Coast dungeons, and I suppose the Elmina dungeons.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Have you been there?
Oh, yes, more than once.
Well, you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, and the experience is something, especially when you're having that experience for the first time. We were part of the process that reversed that door and made it into the door of return, if you recall.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
Yes. So you'd have seen that door, which was formerly the door of no return, but is now the door of return. And I think
of return.
Yes.
One Jamaican.
Yes.
3 slaves return, and one was a Jamaican.
Right, 3 enslaved Africans and 1 Crystal. Did you happen to go to Crystal's grave, the monument in Asin Manso?
You're talking about, let me see if that's the one we're talking about. The Kwame site?
The site.
The park?
Yeah, the site of the burial where the Jamaican ancestor was reburied in Ghana in Asin Manso.
No.
Okay.
No, time did not permit us to
all right. Yeah, that's a pity. But you actually signed with the, I understand, and tell me about the agreement that was signed.
No. Let me correct. I did not sign anything.
Yes.
I did not sign anything.
Okay.
And nothing was signed. Not that I know of.
That you know of.
It will be signed sometime. Oh, by the way, I should let you know that we're planning to have him here in August.
Yes.
But as you know, the type of person, so little in a compound can't accommodate. We will be seeking dialogue with the foreign affairs.
Yes, because it has to go through the protocols.
It will have to go through protocols,
yes.
so
Yes.
foreign affairs and so on. And I mean, he'll be taking a large delegation.
Yes. Usually the delegation traveling with the Asantehene is really, really massive.
Really?
Yeah, it's a big one. All right. So the networking, the communication will continue. There are no plans in the pipeline for the Ashanti King to come into Jamaica, as I hear you saying, and that there.
Yes,
but I heard you saying that there's this agreement is something that will be signed later on. Nothing has been signed right now.
Nothing has been signed right now.
Right.
We are looking. Well, we have to, especially us in a compound.
Yes.
It would not take just one person to sign.
No.
We are the democratic type of governance,
Yes.
and we will do that.
All right.
What I would invite you to go on the Akampong website.
Yes.
Akampong.
Mm-hmm.
Gov. That Akampong-gov.org.
All right, akampong.gov.org for listeners who want to. I suppose you've got the photographs there, pictures, and so on. People can see some more.
We have that, yes.
Right,
so
yes,
for listeners who would want to...
I've seen some of those.
Visit,
yeah.
Yes, they can go on that.
Yeah. All right, Colonel, it sound very good. We really like the fact that happened, that you're back now and thinking of, not just thinking, but ensuring that the process continues. I remember that Colonel Rowe, back in 1992, was part of a delegation that actually met from Akampong that met with the Asantehene also, so that we saw a break in the continuity. And for me, I'm happy that even at this late stage, we're picking that up again. It makes a lot of sense to do that. So congratulations on that. Please keep us informed and good work.
You will be, and as you rightly said, it's a continuation.
Yes.
So what I will be doing is actually, enlightening those that have not gone there, so that when their time comes, they will know what to expect.
Of course. Thank you so much, Colonel Farron. Thank you so much. We'll talk some more.
Yes, ma'am. You're welcome.
All right, okay. That was Colonel Farron Williams of the Akampong Maroons. As you heard, they have just returned from Ghana, where they went and met with the Asantehene and are now ensuring that the linkages that the Maroon communities in Jamaica had back with the continent of Africa, that those are not broken. Thing to remember, though, and we must pay some attention to this, is that we are Africans, all of us, and so that even in these processes, we ensure that it's not just about particular physical, geographical communities, but that it is about the masses of the Jamaican people. And once this is understood and is happening, that in itself is a step in the right direction for the reunification, for development, reuniting the African family for development. And of course, he's no stranger to the African Forum. Professor Biwaji, good morning.
Yes, good morning. How are you?
I am well, if you two are well.
Yes, I'm good.
All right, great. Professor, just before we go into the conversation on the Simple Fest,
yes.
We spoke earlier about, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, but we spoke earlier about at least 4 Nigerians, 3 who have been killed, and 1 critically wounded, 2 criminal elements here on the island, and we haven't heard much about them. Efforts to get comments from the Nigerian High Commission futile, and that's an understatement. From the police, just as bad. And it makes me wonder, as my brother from Nigeria here in Jamaica, what's your thinking on this?
The community has been hit very hard by the incidences that you have mentioned, and the families that were affected have been very traumatized. One, was the killing of the son of a very good friend, whose remains was found in a vehicle burnt out with another individual. Mm-hmm. And then later on we heard about others. But because the community itself is diverse, yes, and spread all over the island, I tried to call the president of the ANJ, Association of Nigerians in Jamaica, immediately. I heard about it, yes, to see what we can know about the other incidences that have taken place. But he didn't have that information at that time. Mm-hmm. And, we had a funeral for the young man who was killed with another man in the vehicle a couple weeks back. It was very devastating, especially because what we know the Nigerian community for is that of hard work and staying above the fray, not getting involved in all kinds of things. And also we always advise our youth to ensure that they are not in the wrong place at the wrong time, so that so much that within the society, one would be able to at least vouchsafe, if anything should happen, you know that you are not entangled. But you see, recently there was that debate about whether Jamaica is a violent society or not. Mm-hmm. What I find very strange about it is that the people who should be able to help the society to address some of the problems are the ones pretending. It's like the ostrich. You bury your head in the sand, mm-hmm. and then you believe that you are hidden, whereas you are in public view. And it's very painful that the very beautiful country, beautiful people, beautiful society that we have is being allowed to fall apart, without anybody seeming. I mean, at times people use the excuse of poverty, as the means of justifying violence and criminality. But there are societies that are poorer than Jamaica, even though what we have here is a kind of distortion whereby the income disparities are so huge, and you have pockets of the society that have literally nothing, whereas some people have so much.
Yes.
And therefore it creates serious problem. I don't know if I can.
Yes. I can. Yeah, but I know I'm putting you on the spot, and yes, you've encapsulated that pretty well. My outrage also comes from the lack of response from the authorities.
I don't think that there is lack of response.
Well, we're getting that. We're getting that from the family. No, but we're getting that from the family. I spoke with Mrs. Odunfor. Her husband is frustrated, and I hear from her that they've even been rude to him. I've also we have coming up shortly, Mrs. Lynch, and also Nikki, the girlfriend of one of those who was killed, the young men. I've also been talking to people in Bamboo about the vicious murder of Edward Omoja, I think his name, and his wife critically ill. There is a lack of response. And that is when you compare it, say, to the missionaries who were killed here in St. Mary just a few weeks ago. And how many people know about that? The Prime Minister himself went to her home, the widow's home. The Minister of National Security was there embracing her. And I'm saying that, yes, that is good. Nothing is wrong with that. But here we have two Nigerians, couple, viciously shot up in Bamboo in St. Anne. Peace-loving, decent people. And you haven't even mentioned it. Here we have two young men, Nigerians, burnt out in a bus in St. Elizabeth or Westmoreland, and you haven't even mentioned it. These are Nigerians who are living in Jamaica in the same way the Americans were living in Jamaica, and it become a national nightmare. I do not understand it. But then you didn't come for this, Prof. So let us move on. I'm so sorry, but I'm really outraged about it.
What you have said is very, very correct, and it contributes to the angst that one feels when these things happen. One would wish that none of it happened either to Jamaicans, to Nigerians, to Americans. Right. But we all know that lives are not equal. And the kind of outrage and the action that follow the heinous killing of the American missionaries, is quite deserved. But however, it's a function of the linkage and the effectiveness of the government, that is the influence of America on Jamaica, is what has made the difference. Whereas with others, with Jamaicans, with Nigerians, with people, if it happened to Japanese, it would be big issue. If it happened to the French, it would be big issue. But if it happened to a Jamaican or to a Nigerian, I mean, it's not a big deal. It's like lives are not equal. That is the point you are making.
Yes, Black Lives Matter.
That's a very serious point.
It is a very serious one.
Which we all need to address. No, you see, murders, I always tell people that when I came to this country and the murder rate was about 250, I was so shocked, I nearly went back until colleagues sat me down to educate me about what is happening in society. But I still maintain that this is a population of less than 3 million people. There is no anonymity.
Now we have 1,000. Now we have 1,000.
Yes,
years
now
it
it's over 1,000.
Yes.
And people are hiding. People wouldn't even address the problem where it is.
And these are
and
predominantly...
that is the most problematic. And
yes.
Also, people seem to think that when it happens to poor people or black Africans, it's not a big deal.
Yes.
That's the point that you are making.
Yes.
It seems to have become normal. Whereas when it happens to a white person or an American or some other
Chinese,
person, the whole world has to come to a stop.
Yes. It's an indictment.
It's very disgraceful.
It is disgraceful. It's an indictment.
It's very disgraceful and it's very embarrassing to all of us. But, I don't know.
Well, we're gonna have to just stand up. We're gonna take a stance, even if we're sitting down. The outrage that comes with the killing of a Caucasian in Jamaica, as compared to the apathy and the divergent gazes that come or not with the murder of Nigerian citizens, of Nigerians, of black Jamaicans, of African Jamaicans.
Yes.
It is a crying shame. Well, we come back to that. But Prof, even as you go off to Nigeria for Simpo Fest, quickly, once again, we've even gone over time, but we really did have to ask you for your input in that. What is Simpo Fest? The music.
The first thing is that we are... Some of the discussions that we have had here just now speak to how people understand heritage, how we understand religion, and how we understand reality. Okay? The reality that was brought to us through Christianity and Islam is one that, creates the kinds of divisions and inequalities, telling people that, you must obey your master, regardless of what the master is doing to you, and so on and so forth. And some of us believe that indigenous African religions, traditions, and cultures valued life for life's sake, regardless of whether you are disabled. Actually, when you are disabled or you are poor, you are treated with so much dignity that reinforces the common dignity of our humanity. Rather than saying that there is a distinction between the rich and the poor and this and that, and creating pockets of disaffection. Yes. And some of us believe that we need to, if only for record purposes and for posterity, we need to begin to take those things seriously and to study. Unfortunately for us, outside of Africa, in Brazil, in Haiti, in Cuba, there are people who practice African religions and live by it. Mm-hmm. And therefore, this particular symposium that we are having is to help to provide an intellectual grounding for that. And then the following week will be the Simpo Fest, yes, where visitors, who want to see Africa, want to see Nigeria, want to see the Yoruba culture in all its beauty, will have the opportunity to participate. to visit places, to see things for themselves, the heritage, the rich heritage, where they will be able to see it and take part in an atmosphere of fun. And at the same time, learn something that can serve them for the rest of their lives, to help to, edify their being. That is what the Simple Fest is about.
Okay.
And we do have many people who have indicated, who are making preparations, because I have a professorship from Codestria and Carnegie. That is why I'm going ahead of time.
Yes.
And I'll be able to use that opportunity, to lay the groundwork especially many people are scared of going to Nigeria because of the news they hear about Boko Haram, of the news that they hear about abductions and this and that.
Yes.
So that we can make the proper preparation for transportation, okay, to ensure that people are secure, accommodation, to ensure that people can feel safe when they are lodged in their hotels, and to make them, to have families that will even adopt them so that they can spend, a night or two with families, so that they can have the proper experience of Nigerian hospitality. That's where I'm going a little bit early.
Yes, and congratulations on the fellowship. We hope to link with you while you're there in Nigeria. I hope that we're able to do that.
That would be great.
And and just to kind of follow what's happening with you, but also with the Simple Fest, etc. Well, anything else you want to tell us about that just before we wrap, in terms of the thinking behind this kind of a get together, especially the indigenous religions? Yes.
The important thing is that global Africa has been very slow to recognize that our destiny, which is what Marcus Garvey and others have said, that our destinies are linked. And because our destinies are linked, what happens to one can impact what happens to the rest.
Yes.
And consequently, the goal, since the African Union has designated the diaspora as the sixth region, but the mechanisms have not been put in place to realize the ambitious dream, of the sixth region. Those of us in the academia, we have an obligation to continue to sensitize, our community, that is the diaspora, to begin to recognize that, it is only when Africa is fully developed, when poverty and squalor is removed, that all of us globally can actually be proud. And as such, through various efforts, whether in the realm of understanding our traditions, whether in the realm of understanding our educational histories, whether in the realm of looking at morality, that is the ethics of our existence, what the Rastafari would call social living, the liberty, whether it is through all those processes, we will then we will be in a position, okay, to pass on something to our posterity, who would also yearn for the day when an African, you just mentioned the fact that Nigerians were killed here, and nothing happened, the wall did not fall.
Yes.
But unfortunately, 2 American missionaries were killed, and everything virtually came to a standstill. When life becomes equal, when humanity becomes equal, when one is not superior to the other, then and only then can we rise up with grace wherever we go in the world. And that is the important thing that we are trying to achieve.
All right, we're going to leave it there. Professor Tunde Biwaji, thank you so much, my brother. Really, as usual, always a pleasure talking to you. We're gonna miss you when you're off, but we'll be talking to you on the phone.
No problem. With all the technology now, this is part of what I keep saying to people.
Yes.
When the rest of the world is busy creating and improving, All we keep doing is dreaming and praying and all this foolishness. We should join the technology trend.
Exactly.
Now you can Google chat and see each other's face. You can Skype. You can do all kinds of stuff.
And WhatsApp.
Because people refuse to sleep on what they have.
Yes.
They keep improving. Even the WhatsApp, every time you see new features being added to it, even when they didn't ask you to upload it or anything, it is coming directly to you, whether you like it or not. That is part of what humanity is about. That is modernity.
As a matter of fact,
constant improvement, constant development, constant growth.
There you go,
my brother. If all you are doing is micromanaging poverty, then we are doomed.
Of course. We leave it there. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Biwaji, Tunde Biwaji there, who is off to the university, who's off to Nigeria from the University of the West Indies here in Jamaica, first on a fellowship and then just Simple Fest, as you heard. Going to take a quick break and come back with my sister Amina Wanjira, Amina Blackwood being flat of this. We're seeing on the social media where so many of you are commenting on the situation with our Nigerian brothers and sisters who were viciously murdered and critically wounded here in Jamaica without so much as a bio leave from the nation and the authorities. And you are referencing Animal Farm, and I think it is really an applicable one. It makes sense. All men are created equal, but some are more equal than some. And once again, our mind goes back to George Orwell and that masterpiece, Animal Farm. It is what it is. They tell you, when you are in your journalism classes in the global world, in the so-called first world countries, sometimes directly and sometimes just by the way, you learn that one Caucasian life is worth sometimes 1 million African lives, and that is what it is. I remember covering a story. I'm going to say this here and then I'm going to leave it. As they say on Facebook, I'm going to leave this right here. Right? I was doing a stint at the BBC, Bush House in London. The coup and a civil war was underway in the Ivory Coast. I wrote a story for the Midday News about what was happening to the Ivorians on the ground in Africa. It was returned to me and I rewrote. It was returned again, and when I asked why twice, I was told that I should lead with the French who were being evacuated from Ivory Coast. Now, be clear on that. And that story would not have made it to the news if I hadn't gone back and rewritten that story at least 3 times to lead with the 2 white French people who were being evacuated, and the millions who were dying, the thousands who were dying, were an afterthought. That is how they view us. And then we turn around and view ourselves the very same way. It is a shame. Standing by to speak with my sister Amina Blackwood Mix. Gonna be unveiling our Marcus Messiah Garvey tribute later on. All right, we go to the phone lines. Amina Wanjira, good morning, my sister.
It is a scandal and disgrace.
Yes, it is.
And I hope you have time to come back to it and not leave it right there. I mean, part of our challenge is that we are so overwhelmed with things that we have to deal with that sometimes we can only lick and run. Mm-hmm. But when we lick, we have to make sure it's a big lick and somebody feel it.
Yes.
And it is orchestrated, I think. It is designed that way, that we are just kept too busy focusing on a million things than to really zoom in on one thing and achieve great successes there.
Mm-hmm.
If you would allow me to continue on that, I think part of it is that over the years, people have grown to believe that things African belong to certain people. It's a Rastaman thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Garvey thing. Mm-hmm. It's a Maduman like Kabu thing.
And you're so right.
For them shoulder broad.
Yes.
Them we carry it. Is mad people like Amina who tie up our head, who always talk about this thing.
Yes.
And without realizing, as my mother would say, that there is no holy place in hell. This is something that concerns all of us. And sometimes, just to give it the other side, sometimes some of us go on like say we's the only star and we for do it.
Yes,
and that makes the journey a little more difficult. But every single person can do something towards our collective liberation.
And my sister, when you have a collective outrage at the murder, and rightly so, of two Caucasian missionaries, rightly so. That's a kind of outrage, and we must say the perpetrators must be brought to justice immediately. That is right. And the Prime Minister maybe never need to show up. The Minister of National Security and the cameras, I don't know the extent of why that was necessary, but fine. But then you have 4 Nigerians, 2 burnt out in a van and left by the wayside. You have an elderly Nigerian couple in Bamboo, viciously murdered. One, the wife in critical condition, the elderly, the husband dead. And the nation has turned a divergent gaze. And the Minister of National Security has not made it to Bamboo or to Westmoreland. And we pretend, not only that, we slur the characters of these people. We try them publicly without even knowing them. It says something about us individually. That
it's a pathology. We're sick. It's a serious sore that we just need to, I don't know if Gentian violet is enough, but we need to put all kinds of things and just clear out our headspace and just value ourselves as human beings because we are. Not because we are somebody's wife or husband or son or daughter, or we have a 40 million letters of government alphabet after our name, but because we are. And because we are, we deserve to be treated with a certain level of dignity, a certain level of respect, a certain level of care and concern every single second that we are alive.
And treat ourselves that way too,
Absolutely.
so that we can treat others that way. My sister, it is the underlying theme for this morning. It is something that we've been on, but it really, I'm feeling, a fullness of heart about the fact that we used to talk about we are becoming, but it seems to me as if we have become.
Oh, we cross so many lines.
Yes.
Until we don't even realize that we have crossed lines.
Or even recognize ourselves anymore.
Yeah.
All right.
We make excuses.
I am congratulating you in the same vein on the honor that was rightly so bestowed upon you by the Ministry of Education, and also on the work that you have done in kicking against all the locked doors to ensure that, listen, if I have to mention Marcus Garvey's name at
one time. If I am one time for the academic year.
Yes, it must be done, and that took resilience and fortitude, and what the other words I'm usually using in cases like this. All those other words, brilliant. Amina, thank you so much for that. I am concerned, I must say, even though this is not what you come to talk about the continuity, because I know that
we have to be concerned about continuity.
Yes.
Because sometimes we call Marcus Garvey's name.
Did we lose my sister there? Okay, I think we lost Amina. Can we try and get her back quickly? All right, in the meantime, let me take a quick break. Can we try and get her back?
Grace Econo Franks brought the packs for more Grace goodness any meal, anytime. What will you do with your 3 free extra franks? Grace Econo Franks brought the packs from Grace, bringing good taste to life.
While I take care of my family, friends, home, and work, Total Woman takes care of me. It's Sagicor Life Solution for women like me. The time by Total Woman from Sagicor Life is...
Now 7:37, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa. And thank you so much, Selector Princess, on Twitter. You found that archival picture of myself and Sister Amina. Amina, you're back.
We are not going to say anything about sabotage.
Not a word about it. We're not using the word. You can spell it again if you want, but look here.
Yeah.
And Selector Princess has done a really beautiful thing. Well, she's Selector, I don't know if you're here. You're in America, aren't you? Well, she just put on Twitter a picture of me interviewing you. You know, I think we were at. It was in the Paul Boger.
Oh wow!
In the march. So there you go. It's all over the social media now. So it is me. It is me with the microphone, and it is Sister Amina looking at me like that, like she's saying, "Listen to me, it's a little girl."
I'm going to look for it in a little while.
Yes, so we were talking about Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey, and you're saying that the continuity is important.
It is very important.
Yes.
And I was saying also that if Marcus Garvey was alive, we would have killed him again. And it is very much connected. It's not separated. All things are connected from the death of the Nigerians. We have so learned to hate ourselves that we begin to believe, some of us, that we really wasn't black. We did closer to white, and we did kind of begin to feel comfortable in that. And so anybody now who going to talk about Marcus Garvey and his relevance to 2016, the second year of the International Decade for People of African Descent, I must say mad. They might come to remind me, say me black, and I am not going to accept that. So we do not fool ourselves that the embracing of Marcus Garvey is everywhere. We know that there continues to be resistance to this, first of all, in black, and then in come from country.
Yes.
And that's a double whammy in this society. And so, yeah, those of us who are outside of the system, outside of the confines of the classroom, have a responsibility. It is our duty to knock on the doors and say, what happened to this program? Where is it going? How can I help? What do the children need? And so on and so on and so forth. Whatever we want our children to learn and do, whatever we want our nation to become, then we have to find those doors and knock and say, me can help.
Yes. And one of the things, because we've been talking to you over the many years on the inclusion of Marcus Garvey in the school curriculum, you've taken it to a place where at least it's there. You have always said that there's so much more to be done. What are some of the, in terms of the projection, where were you looking? Because we want to pick up later on with the person who will now be, because you're no longer a director of culture and education.
No, me age up out of school.
Right, yeah. You've gone on to other things.
Yes. Well, let me tell you some of what we had done. First of all, we built the Marcus Garvey program as a separate program, and then built Marcus Garvey into the renewed civics curriculum. You understand the difference?
Yes.
A curriculum is timetabled. So you have it for 1 hour for the week in this time. A program is in every single subject area, in every single activity. So for the Marcus Garvey program, for example, you should be able to go to a devotion one morning and sing a hymn that was written by Marcus Garvey. And many people do not know that Marcus Garvey did write hymns. You should be able to go to a literature class and read a poem written by Marcus Garvey. You should have performed it for a JCDC festival, as a matter of fact. You should be able to go to your home economics class and talk about Marcus Garvey's philosophy on food security and how that worked, and link that back to the Maroons. You should be able to go to an art and craft class and build a model of the Black Star Liner. You should be able to go to an IT class and say, but how Marcus Garvey did distribute all this amount of his newspaper at a time when we never have no internet, and figure out what the impact of that would be in an age of communications technology. So it is everywhere. The civics program now is timetabled. And so within that timetable, there are various themes. And for each theme, we have said that every single unit, so a unit might last for 5 weeks or whatever, or 6 or 3. So it's broken down into the 13 weeks. That each of those breakdown is driven by a Marcus Garvey quotation. So when the babies are looking at themselves and they're asking, how do you know me and how do I know myself? They should be able to say, God and nature first make me what I am.
Mm-hmm.
And them are quote Marcus Garvey.
Of course, yes.
And then when them reach grade 4 now, and they're looking at the same theme in a deeper way, they should be able to take that further. So them know God and nature first make me what I am.
Mm-hmm.
When them reach grade 4, them should be able to say, and then by my own effort, me going to make myself into something greater.
Yes.
So that they grow into it. All right. For both of those programs, to ensure continuity, we had established an association of culture agents who are very committed to the program.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that association needs support from outside. We had also selected, there's a theory that it takes 1% of every population to alter the character of that population. We test the theory all the time, you know.
Yes, you know.
That intel we say we have 26,000 Rastas.
Mm-hmm.
If there are 2.6 million of us, then 26,000 is exactly 1%.
Yes.
We can't turn around and see Rasta man or hear Rasta man or eating food or speaking language.
Exactly. Yes.
So we use that to test it. So we asked ourselves, can I find 1% of the schools in Jamaica, the public schools in Jamaica, that can make a success of these programs? Well, there are 1,200 schools roughly.
Mm-hmm.
So 1% is 12, roughly. Mm-hmm. Of course we can find 12.
Of course.
But there are 6 regions. So we said we want 12 schools in each region.
Mm-hmm.
So 6 times 12 is 72, right?
Yeah. You know,
so
I'm
we
very happy
selected
you're not asking me the answers to those questions.
Me I said, never Marcus Garvey class, you know. To work out how much shares we need to make the Black Star Line a profitable. All of that. So it's in maths as well.
Yes, yes.
Right. So we have 72 schools that we call our beacon schools, and we have trained the culture agents in those schools. We have trained the teachers who are to deliver these 2 programs in those schools, and their responsibility is to make the program so shine that any other school that is in problem don't have to find an Amina or a Kabu or anywhere. Just go find the teachers in that school and say, tell me where you do.
Yes.
And there are some schools that have made tremendous success of the program. So let me give you two extreme examples. Mm-hmm. When we were doing the training, there were some principals and teachers who bought the program immediately. And then there were some who said, I don't know what I talk about, but the ministry said, I to come at the training, so I come.
Yeah.
At the end of the first term, and I won't call the principal's name, one of my principals of my principals.
Yes. No, that's fine. That's right. Right on. I mean,
a principal of a primary school who never want to have nothing to do with Marcus Garvey, but who just come because the ministry say him to come, went out and bought every single book he could find on Marcus Garvey. Why did he do that? Mm-hmm. He said at the end of the first term, he looked around and his children looked different. They were sitting up. They were walking proud and tall. They were attempting to answer questions in class, even if the answer wrong. Mm-hmm. And the only thing he had done differently that term was to introduce the Marcus Garvey program.
Okay.
All right?
Yes.
So that for me is a big success. Here is somebody who never cared about the program, but who was an observant principal who wanted his children to learn and who was willing to ask, what did I do differently?
I mean, where do we go from here? Because are you still a consultant on all of this, considering that this obviously is going to need your kind of input?
Call the ministry and ask them.
All right, I'll call the ministry. I'll call the ministry and ask them. Next week. No, I'll have the answer next week for our listeners, because it seems to me as if for the we're talking to Colonel Farron this morning about the continuity, and I think this is what for me there are too many projects, too many and educational and otherwise that have been put in place in Jamaica, but then just get stymied
and I'm glad when you're gone
and pushed out when the person was leading that project is for whatever reason. Like in your case, like I say, you had to come off of the calendar, move out. So But we see other people who ages off of the calendar leading up all kinds of committees now. So the government is not averse to it. All right. So I mean, we're completely out of time and we have so much to talk about. I don't know how that happened, but. So we have a talk again.
We said so at the beginning of the program.
Yes.
That our liberation requires us to be doing so many things.
Yes.
And we don't complain, they all need to be done. I want to talk about, if you will allow me, my Epicnipation project, though.
Yes.
Which is a special project. And I'll just mention it now and we will come back to it another time. That we're doing a special project for emancipation for children. We are now very convinced, if we weren't convinced before, that the decolonization project begins with our children. And no longer can we wait until they're 16 and 17 and 18 to get upset with us to say, why didn't I know this before? I mean, Frederick Douglass tell us long time, say it is easier to build strong children than to repair broken men. So we're planning a very special emancipation project for children, which is going to be held at the Edna Manley College on Saturday, the 30th of July. And next time we talk, we will talk
it's very good. It's very good. And we really do have to talk, I think, without knowing it, because I know you're always here for a tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Garvey. And we, this year, imagine, we have the very same theme. The theme this year is Education for Liberation. You just mentioned Frederick Douglass. Our special guest speaker is a descendant. Descendant of Frederick Douglass. And you just articulated the theme. We hadn't talked about it. Not at all.
I saw the ancestors working now.
Yes. So you see how it goes.
I saw the ancestors. When they give you work to do, them open your head and put it in there so we all speak with one voice.
I mean, next week we talk again. I'm very sure about this. Yeah, man. Give thanks.
Plenty love, my sister.
All right. Amina Blackwood Meeks, the former director of the Culture in Education Department at the Ministry of Education. Quick break.
Hide nothing from the masses of the people. Tell no lies. Expose lies whenever they are told. Mask no difficulties, mistakes, failures. Claim no easy victory.
You're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa and Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter, whether it's in Chibok in Nigeria, as we said earlier this morning, whether it's in Chicago, the USA, or Clay Ground here in Jamaica, or Westmoreland. The untimely and unexpected or unnecessary loss of life, any life, a black life in particular, is especially painful. It speaks to the genocide, the continuum of the Ma'afa. Jamaica now experiencing one of the highest murder rates in the world. Over 1,000 per year, for years in a row. And if you check the ethnic composition of those who are being murdered viciously, violently, brutally, they're black people in Jamaica, African people in Jamaica. We're seeing a divergent gaze from the church, from the state, from civil society, from the media. That is unacceptable. And we talked about critical reflection. We talk about looking within ourselves and asking, how did we get here and what can we do to change this? The outrage can't be all on the social media. The outrage can't be just for Caucasians or Chinese or the other. Entire generations, we've got about 3 generations here in Jamaica of black African children, the majority of the population, who are jaded or desensitized to viciousness, to murder, to crime, to killing, to scamming. What kind of society, what kind of nation are we building when on top of that, as leaders, the message we send to them is that the Caucasian life and the African life matters more than their lives? This is going to take leadership. This requires leadership. Not just talk. Not just talk, but action. We are not what we say we are. We are what we do at the end of a day. We want to go to the phone lines. We want to go to the phone lines now to speak with Nikki, and I think we'll conference because we're so behind time. At the same time, Mrs. Lynch, just to refresh our memories, because so much is not known, that in March 6th, the burnt remains of Prince Ohia and also 27-year-old Mofolomiso Odunfo, who's known as Chris, were found in a silver Nissan urban minibus in Ashton District in Westmoreland. Both men are Nigerian. Chris, the son of a pathologist here in Jamaica, a student at the UCC College, was studying information technology and subsidizing himself through farming, also selling fruits and vegetables to the hotels. And he was viciously murdered, brutally murdered. I have been in dialogue with his mom. Thank you so much, Jamoke, for putting us in touch. We have been in dialogue with his mom, and she is hurt. The pain she's feeling is more than she was even able to articulate, of course, and we feel her pain. Her husband, who, as I said before, is a pathologist here in Jamaica, has been getting the runaround, they tell me, and that the authorities have even, and they say the police, have been rude to them. But not only that, we don't talk about this. There is a judging of these two young men that is going on in the media, that is going on in the communities. That is ridiculous beyond measure. Because Jamaica has now gone and tried these two young men. They must have been involved in something. And regardless of the viciousness of the murder, it's okay? Is it okay that if your son is smoking ganja, and I'm not saying that they were, by the way, I'm just saying, but is it okay for them to be viciously and violently killed and burned to death, left on the wayside in Ashton in Westmoreland? Is it okay? And then we look at the couple. There's a couple in Bamboo in St. Anne in March also, viciously shot up in the dead of night, mercilessly slain. The wife is still alive, critically wounded, now overseas. Her husband, Edward Omoreje, is dead. They are from Nigeria. Here in Jamaica is where they have made their home for the very longest time. We're joined on the phone lines by the girlfriend of one of the young men who was burnt to death, left on the wayside, and by Nana Ama Emilia Marie Lynch, who's an activist, who's a continental African living here in Jamaica, married to a Jamaican. We know her also as Mama Aura. Nikki, good morning. Thank you so much for joining.
Yes, morning.
Nana Ama, Thank you so much.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning to you. And thank you and Jamoki and the strong women who have been ensuring that you're standing by the sides of these, the survivors and the relatives, the wives and mothers and fathers of our brothers who were so viciously murdered here in Jamaica. I'm going to start with you, Nikki. First of all, my condolences to you and your family at the murder of Prince. Tell us a little bit about Prince. Who was Prince? He's from Nigeria, is he?
Yes, he's from Nigeria.
How did you meet him?
I meet him here in the community that I live.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he come up here with a friend. Came up here with a friend and I meet him on the road.
Yes. And you've been living together for how long?
12 years.
I know he came to Jamaica. He came to Jamaica because he heard so much about Jamaica and Jamaican music and just Jamaican society. He came and wanted to be part of this. He's actually, we say Prince because he actually is, isn't he?
Yes.
Tell me what happened on the day you heard that he was killed.
The Saturday I was here near him and he got a call from the next Nigerian that is March the 5th, that he cannot get any time. So through being I sell pine and the next Nigerian sell pine, Prince told him that anytime he's going to country to buy pine, is to link him up that he can get a drive from him.
Mm-hmm.
So when the next Nigerian called him the Saturday now and said, he can't get no pine, and if he can come down and help him get some more pine, Prince was happy to go car. I'm glad for the drive and he didn't want to get some pine for me.
Yes.
So he decided, like how he is already in the country, the other Nigerian is already in the country, he will meet him in Santa Cruz. That is what he told me. He's going to meet him the Sunday morning by 4 o'clock. He asked me to wake him up by 4 o'clock because he was a late waker. So he normally let him to go somewhere early and asked me to wake him up.
Yes.
So I wake him up the Sunday morning and he get ready and went there to meet the next Nigerian so it was them can buy time.
And when did you hear next about what happened?
It was like 3 weeks after, because Prince that person like this. So being, sometimes he has some virgin who will come and they will go away together, like the farming, and sometimes he get paid for the work he does with them, and sometimes they will give him ground provision. So anytime he heard about some project also, he was willing to go with the next person. And sometimes they're up in the hills for weeks and no reception also. They was there growing coconut, banana and all those things.
All right.
So through most of the time he always do that. I said maybe it's just one of them things. He's just maybe he's gone off with one and friend him again.
When did you know that it was Prince who was burnt out? Did you know that he had died?
No, I did not see the news. People told me that they see the news, but I did not see it.
So when did you know that it was him?
When I went to make a report, because I said at least he would have called. At least he would have called.
Yes.
And said something and try to find about the argument. And you understand, crime always come with some story. Even though he was a good person. Anybody who knew Prince.
So that when you went to make the report, you heard.
Yeah, they told me that They found a Nigerian burned up in a van, an African burned up in a van, but they don't think it's him because it's one body. So then I said, maybe it's not him. And then the police told me again that our next officer come and told me that it was 2 bodies. And one is unidentified.
So who identified him as Prince?
I went onto the body.
Okay. That must have been...
And they take a DNA from my child.
Okay. Because he has you have a child together?
We have 2 children together.
How old are they?
The oldest one is 11. And the youngest one is 5.
Oh, wow.
We have 3 children, but one died about 8 years ago.
Wow.
So the youngest one is 5.
Wow. All right. As far he's not buried as yet, is he?
No. The reason being, I think, the family they found out late that he died.
That's
the record found out late.
Yeah, so, that's a family in Nigeria?
Yeah. He was kind of slow in some way, so I'm just getting that the family is kind of the same way.
Yeah.
So I'm giving them time.
Yeah.
Maybe if they did not get in contact, we will have deal with it already.
Okay, so
they found out late. They are just processing everything.
Oh, man. Mrs. Lynch?
And just deciding what to do.
Yeah. Nana Amal?
Yes, my dear.
Well, all right, so you have been talking to both Mrs. Deborah Odunfor and her husband, and also to Nikki on this violent crime and the sad loss of their husband and son. What can you tell us about Chris? His name was Mofomlumiso?
Yes.
Yeah. What can you tell us about him?
Well, the 2 boys were just trying, their lives. They didn't want to be employed by people.
Yes.
So Prince has these children with Nikki, and he goes about buying things. How I know him, Prince came to my house. He was friends with my son. And, he was into this reggae music thing. And he was going to Buju's studio in and out. He's always in the studio with Buju. Then he came to my house with one of Buju's sons. Says, Mama, please, Buju says you should teach this boy some African customs.
Yeah.
That he wanted the boy to stay with me and go to school and learn the African way of life.
Yes.
So the boy was living with me in my house. And, as he said, I should teach the boy. So I started teaching the boy African customs and some African languages and,
Thank you.
And Prince used to come to the house. Prince will go out, buy coconuts, plantains, bananas, hustle.
Yeah.
And the wife was selling pineapples and things like that. So all I know about Prince, he was a hard-working young man, who came to Jamaica to study the music, reggae, and to be busted here, like you Jamaicans say.
Yeah.
But he wasn't busted. So he started selling foodstuffs, and you buy yams and things like that and go and sell.
Yes.
This is how I know Prince.
Yes, and Chris, we were expecting to speak with Mrs. Deborah Odunfor and Teo Odunfor this morning, but I'm assuming that it's probably a little bit too much for them, so we're not getting them right now. They were actually scheduled to be in the studio. So what can you tell us about Chris Odunfo?
Chris is a very, very hardworking young man. He was sent to England. He came back. He didn't want to work for anybody. So he started, his little business. A little farming, buying pineapples and supplying the hotels. And he was helping himself to be an entrepreneur, a young entrepreneur, and he was succeeding. So I don't know why. I don't know why. I just don't know why they should, murder these two boys, so brutally.
Mm.
When I heard, I had to run down. I don't live in Kingston.
Mm.
It
is really, it was shocking when we heard first, and it is still a shocking bit of news. And what is even more shocking on top of all of this is that there seems to be, the two young men seem to have been forgotten. That's the first thing. And do you know, you've been speaking with the mom, and you've been actively involved in this as an activist to ensure that there's justice for these two boys. What can you tell us about what we're hearing from the police, if anything, what we're hearing from the authorities? What do we know about the investigation so far? Have you heard anything?
I haven't heard nothing. I'm so, the Nigerian embassy have been trying their best as diplomats. They have to go through the diplomatic channels and everything. The police, I don't know what the police told the Nigerian embassy. And they are painting, what's his name? Prince to be, I just don't know.
And the question is that regardless of what they are painting him to be, and we hear from both you and his wife just now about the kind of person he was. But I am saying, what does if so these two young men were brutally murdered? How can you, as a police, try them, even one, in your minds, convict them and sentence them without investigating this case and seeing justice for them? Is there no justice in Jamaica? And what does justice mean? And what does it look like? Is it to be burnt out in a van and left by the wayside? Yes, sorry.
Why nothing is being done? Nothing is being done for these two young men. Nothing. The police is not doing anything. Nobody has come to comfort the parents, And I mean, I don't even know what to say.
These are all very respectable people here in Jamaica. Nana Ama Lynch is a very respectable woman, very well known across the world. The wife, we're talking about Mrs. Deborah Odunfo, and her husband. Her husband is a pathologist. I mean, these people are not people who are in Jamaica just idling, laying by the wayside, living off a stage. You're talking about
what I don't understand. The Odunfos are here. Mr. Odunfo is working here as a pathologist in this country. This boy, Prince, is a prince. He's a prince from Abia State. The father was a chief, half year. So I don't know. I just don't know. The mother is dead. The father is dead. The sister, I got in touch with the sister the other day. And everybody is very concerned that nothing is being done. And this boy is still here. He's not buried. And it's not easy. And with the rumor that he was into drugs, I don't know about that, and he's not here to defend himself. So I don't know.
And the question is
I am here to defend him.
Yes, as Nikki.
To defend him.
Right. So Nikki,
this boy has just 2 children. Who is going to look after the children now?
A year ago, if you come at my gate, a year ago, March last year, them burn up in van right at my gate. And them are tell me, say, his countryman drugs come and burn my van at my gate I'm looking at right now. And all the police can do is laughing in face and then go and report it. So maybe the country people then don't have nothing to do with this.
And you're hearing, you see,
right now I'm looking at the van burn up on my gate last year March. And this year March is just to me away from me just want him buried first. Me just want him body deal with first.
Nikki, what is the police saying to you?
When he go and report the van last year, then do nothing. Nothing.
What are they?
Nothing.
What are they saying now about the investigation about his murder?
I don't go to anybody yet. Because all I'm trying to do is get the body deal with first. If the family never gets involved, probably the embassy will help me and everything will deal with finally that we can investigate what really happened to him.
What are you in touch with the Nigerian High Commission?
I spoke to them when we just do the autopsy and they find out that it's him and everything. And they told me they will help me with anything until the people then get in touch with his family and they are the one who is kind of holding up things.
Nana Ama, what now? What are we? What do we want here? What's going to happen?
What we want is for Prince's body to be sent back to Nigeria with the white
people. Then give Prince a fight. The people then give Prince a fight. Prince was a good person. Anybody who know him, yes. Maybe in smoke, yes, me not say maybe. Anybody who know him knows that he smoked ganja. Yes, he was a ganja smoker. But he was a good person.
Like
all of my family can tell you that. You know, he was a good person.
If we were to burn everybody in a bus who smoked ganja in Jamaica, would be burning up more than half of the nation.
If he was doing drugs, him hardly have money. And me, every day I go out and work, him help me, him assist me to get me things them to sell. When do the drugs money, and he never show me like say, he never do like when I say, woman involved, and a woman are, he do everything in care at the yard, everything. When every day, he try to make sure you them have something to eat. When do the drugs money to involved in a job?
But, you know, there are two people in that vehicle. There are two young men who were burned to death. And how can you, in all good faith, just get up and say that you know, and this is why I'm talking about justice. We hear when the Nigerian missionaries were killed, there were a lot of rumors. The police did not listen to those rumors. They went ahead, and they're not listening to those rumors. They went ahead and they're doing their investigation. The Prime Minister turned up at the house of the widow. The Minister of National Security turned up at the house of the widow. The Tourism Minister made a speech. Everybody got on this. The private sector was up in arms. The church says this is a dark day in Jamaica, and Jamaica is heading to darkness. Now, regardless of whatever rumors we heard in the community. Now, and this is why, so why then the rumors that you spread about one of these young men who was in the vehicle become the catalyst to stop the investigation? And regardless, there were two young men in that vehicle. Two young men lost their lives. Two young men were burned to death, murdered. Black Lives Matter. Mrs. Lynch, let me ask you, because when we spoke to Mrs. Odunfo, she said to us that her husband, the pathologist, have been calling the police day in, day out to get some information on where the investigation is. And she has said to us that they have even been rude to her husband. What can you tell us about that, about the investigation, if anything? Have you heard anything at all from the police? Have you yourself made one?
Nothing at all. Nothing at all. Nothing at all.
Can you tell me if the family got a call from the Minister of National Security or the Prime Minister or the Minister of Tourism?
Nothing. I have since spoken to the sister in Nigeria. The sister had sent some money to the undertaker, somebody called Cyprus Funeral Services. She sent $1,200 for them to see what they can do. You know, I have to go to the funeral home. I've been trying to, locate the place, but I can't find the place. So I don't know. And
what do we hope to achieve? I know it's important to bring this to light. As an activist here in Jamaica, somebody who's very well respected in the Jamaican society, what are you saying to us this morning? What do you want the Jamaican people to take away from this, to think about, and to assist the families with?
What I want as an African Jamaican woman is for us, the country, we have to do some rituals here in Jamaica to cleanse our land. We have too much bloodshed here right now. That is what I want. And for Prince, proper investigation to be done. He came here to do reggae, and now he's dead in reggae land.
Yeah.
The Germans come, they get busted. Chinese come, they get busted. Japanese come, they get busted. And our own brother, same African, come.
Yeah.
All he got was death, not busted.
And laughter and jeer.
Laughter
but
and
he
jeer.
was different. All he get is laughter and jeer.
And again, I want his children to be looked after. That is what I want. Those two children. He had 3 children here. 1 died. And 2 are left. 11 and 5. They have to be looked after.
And I hear you about the need for atonement in Jamaica. I heard that call. We will pick up that call and we'll talk to you some more about it. Once again, our condolences to the Odunfa family, to you and Nikki, and the O'Hare family in Nigeria. We're going to stay on this story. We're going to ensure that we ourselves speak with the powers that be, the authorities. And we will be asking the questions. We need justice for these Africans, for our brothers. Black lives matter here in Jamaica.
Matter.
Thank you, Mrs.
But the country should not forget, we still have to do this rituals.
Yes. There is a...
We have to do these rituals here and stop the bloodshed.
We hear
in the country.
We hear you loud and clear, Nana Ama Emilia Marie Lynch, Mama Ora. We're gonna take you up on it. You have made a call that we have to listen to.
Back to Ghana, and they sent us this present for unification of the black race here in Jamaica. We need to do these rituals and cleanse this land.
Nana, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Nikki. We'll keep in touch.
Okay.
Please let us know what's happening and we'll keep in touch. We're not leaving it now. And in Bamboo here in St. Anne, in Playground, 2 Nigerians, a couple in their 60s, in the dead of night. Their doors kicked down, they're shot, Edward Omoroja is dead. His wife, retired elderly, is in critical condition in the United States. Mr. Bobby Montague, Minister of National Security, you turned up for the Caucasian missionaries, turn up for the Nigerians. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, you turned up for the Caucasian missionaries, turn up for the Nigerians. What does justice look like? What does justice for black people in Jamaica look like? Tell us what it looks like. Or for heaven's sake, show us what it looks like. Black lives to the Jamaican people who continue to laugh at ourselves when we come with different accents, and especially from the continent of Africa and Haiti. Remember that as our elder Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael, reminds us, our people cannot depend upon any one man. Our people can depend only upon the masses of our people, properly organized in a determined, uncompromising, relentless struggle against the enemy. This is the only thing that gives us victory. It's about time we stop and reflect on who we are. It's about time that we begin to ask ourselves questions about how we really feel about ourselves as black people, as African people, because part of our problem is that we have not yet asked ourselves that question or truthfully answered that question. And that is why black lives do not matter to so many of us here in Jamaica.
Crunchers, K to the R to the U to the N to the C to the H to the A. Crunchers, turn up the crunch.
Another quality product from National. The Town by Crunchers wheat crackers is
28 after 8. We're standing by for the dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, cash pot, and early bird draws. Now, 8:34, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa. I'm going to go to the phone lines now to speak with my sister, Afua Fufie. We're talking again about the Run Taina Run. Of course, you know, today at Woodside in St. Mary, today, May 22, at Woodside in St. Mary, one of the first activities in the the lead up to the Taina Run, which is kicking off in July, is happening today at the Atabay carving in the caves in Woodside. In addition to that, though, we're going to be talking about the run itself. We're joining Fufie and Kaylan Atman on the phone lines to talk a little bit about that, standing by for them. And by the way, usually it's quite okay to make your comments on my Facebook pages. You can do that across Facebook where I am working and when I'm working. And opinions do matter. Your comments do matter. Your critical comments do matter. But we will not take abuse. And so I am deleting some. And I'm also unfriending some. And my sister Christina, I've got to unfriend you. I have to do this because of the abusive nature of the post. All right? Okay, let's go back to the phone lines. And by the way, you can abuse me in any other forum, but don't use my page for abuse me, all right? All right, so we go to the phone lines of my sister Afufie, Fufa Fufie, standing by.
Kabu, how are you?
I am well, if you two are well, my sis.
I am very well, and I'm greeting you this morning by saying Takahi Kabu.
Say that again, Fufier?
Takahi.
Takahi. Brilliant.
That's
Takahi.
the kind of word
what should be my
greeting.
And what should be my response?
Your response would be Takahi.
Okay. Takahi, Fufier. And do we have Kaylan Atman online with us? Kaylan?
Yes. Takahi to you as well.
Takahi to you, Kaylan. You know the two different pronunciations, but I'm going with both of them. All right. Okay. The short time that we have, let me kick off with you, Fufier. While we have the rooster in the background, it is all genuine. Fufier, just a quick reminder to our listeners of the what's happening at Woodside today in a minute.
Oh, yes. Yeah. We're so excited about Woodside today.
Yeah.
As part of our preparation for the, Andrea, as I said before, you don't just get up and run 5,000 miles. 5,000, nearly 6,000 miles, right?
Yes.
You have to prepare. And if you're running to represent the kind of people, you have to make them know. You have to make those ancestors know that you're doing this.
Yes.
So as part of our preparation, we're visiting some kind of sacred sites. The first one is today in Woodside. We all know Woodside is a very strong kind of community. You might have, and I love what you said a while ago about different pronunciations, and we both said Takahi, greeted you, because Tano yesterday might not look like Tano today,
Mm-hmm.
It might not look the same.
Yes.
So Woodside today don't look like Woodside when the Tano people live there in their fullness.
Right.
But they're still there today. Once they were there physically, today they're there physically, today they're there spiritually.
And the tangible evidence that's left back there in addition
it's very powerful.
To the spiritual.
That Atterday site, that Atterday cave, that's called One Bobby Susan or Daddy Rock.
Yes.
It's a very powerful statement of the presence of the Taino people.
And so the gathering
that is there.
And so the gathering today is at the
So
site.
the gathering
It's
today
a public
is part of the
gathering.
preparation for the journey, public gathering.
So
we're calling attention calling the attention of the Taino ancestors. We're saying we're here because we're going out to represent you. The people in this community are giving us permission, are giving their blessings, are putting their prayers in, are honoring you.
So please,
even as we will take that honor and run with it for 5,800 and how many miles?
Okay, so grab your refreshments and head.
Don't grab no refreshments. There's going to be food on sale.
There's going to be food on sale. Okay, all right.
There's going to be food on sale, and the funds will go towards projects of the Woodside Tourism Heritage Product Committee.
All right. Okay, so that's Woodside, and it's kicking off. What time it starts?
We are going to be meeting at the community center at 1.
Okay. All right. Brilliant.
Right. And then we'll travel down a little bit of a walk, not long, to the site itself.
Mm-hmm.
And we will be talking and doing all sorts of, we'll be learning a song for Atterday, the deity who's carved in that rock.
All right.
Of that cave.
And we'll
be talking about the Jamaican kindness, their way of life.
Mm-hmm.
I heard you talking Black Lives Matter. The indigenous people knew that. The Taino people knew that. They knew that lives mattered. And they had certain perspectives on life that would not allow you to turn around and take a life. They would see it as an abomination. They would see it as being so against the laws of nature.
And we just
heard...
And
they respected all life. Human life, plant life, stone, all life.
And we just heard Nana Lynch talking to us about the need for atonement, which when you visit the sacred spaces and go through these rituals that will happen today at Atterday, that's also part of atoning.
It is part of saying I'm sorry to those ancestors.
Right.
That was departed from their way of life, a way of life that shows respect for life.
All right.
Well, way of life that showed you that water is life. You see how we keep our waterways, our rivers, even the sea. You see how we keep those? We are not of indigenous thinking anymore, and we are an indigenous people.
Let me go to Kaylan.
The kindness were.
Let me go to Kaylan in the few minutes that we have, because Kaylan, you're one of the participants for the Run Taino Run. Remind our listeners of what that campaign is, the Jamaican campaign at least, 2016, because you're part of that.
Yes, we'll start running on July 5th. This is our first for us here in Jamaica, joining the others in the Caribbean, the other Taino brothers, they call the staff the abuelos, the grandfathers, and they wanted some representative from Jamaica
to bring this reemergence of this indigenous energy, to bring awareness, to write the Tainos back into history, make awareness that, they're not extinct.
Yes.
They're here. They're in us as well.
And
so we'll start on the 5th and we'll end in November, starting from New York, running to Georgia, from Georgia to Texas, from Texas to Mexico, from Mexico to Guatemala, from Guatemala to El Salvador, to Nicaragua, to Honduras, Costa Rica, and end in Panama with a ceremony for 4 days.
Wow. That's a long one. As a matter of fact, in a little while we're going to be joined. We're going live to Costa Rica because we're talking there to a brother about the Marcus Garvey, the building there, Liberty Hall, that has been burned out. But that, so you are actually going to be heading to New York and doing that run. You're literally running all the way, all those areas you laid out just now. You're going to be running all those areas?
Yes, it's a team of 3 of us, and it is a relay type system. So each person, one person is always running with the staff for ancestors for this space. And we're stopping at different indigenous communities along the way, carrying their prayers, sharing prayers with them, sharing ceremony with them. This is all about us. The intention for this year's Peace and Dignity Journey is prayer for the seeds.
Prayer for the seeds.
The future, the future generations, medicine, food. This is something important to all indigenous cultures. We found that in this modern day and age, the dream of the people has changed. It is a dream that is focusing on self. It is a dream that is focusing on our individual needs and desires. And these runs, this is carrying us back to this indigenous mindset. Reminds us the dream for the future generations, a land that our children can grow in and live abundantly.
Yes, I like the term carrying their prayers, Fufi, as we have just a minute to go in this conversation. Develop on that for me.
Everything happens now. I was about to say to you, Nana Kabu, and you are Nana Kabu. Nana Kabu. You see the ancestors have spoken. They've spoken. I don't call it whatever they've spoken. Probably that's what we need to talk about, Nana Kabu. Nana Kabu. The carrying of prayers is a very, very special task. And even for these 3 runners, Kalan, Belvaline, Toyloi, Nugent, to be chosen by the ancestors to carry these prayers is really a powerful, powerful, powerful growth energy that has been planting, a seed, if we should say, that has been planting within them, for the people they serve here in Jamaica. With this staff, when we take it to the sacred places, that's one of the things we're doing. We're having people touch it, feel it, help to prepare it, pray about it, pray for the success of this venture. So when we lift that staff, you know what it will represent? Jamaica. Okay. Jamaican people. They're thinking.
All right.
Their desire to reconnect.
Fufi, I have 30 seconds in this segment. So I'm going to give Kalan 15 of that and you 15 just to wrap up with this segment as we go into the news. Kalan, what would you
give Kalan 15. Give
yes.
Kalan
okay, go ahead, Kalan. You wrap up. You take it. Yes.
Well, I'd just like to share that, other than our event at Woodside, we'll be having some other events. We'll be having crowdfunding events. You can visit the Sankofi community on Facebook, and we'll also be at Nanook, that's 20 Burlington Avenue, this Tuesday at 7 o'clock. The discussion will be on Out of Many One People, so we'll be speaking about that, bringing in the Taina element, bringing in other elements, speaking about indigeneity for Jamaica on a whole. I guess I'd just like to leave saying that, these prayers are the prayers for our nation.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you, Fufi. Thank you, Kalan. We'll talk again next week.
It's always a blessing, Nana.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry I did that. Didn't mean to. So sorry. All right. Thank you, Fufi. Thank you, Kalan. Time 8:45. Natalie Campbell is standing by with the local and international headlines coming up right now. How are you doing, Mr. Robert Williams?
I am poco.
Poco. What I mean in English again? Small?
Not totally fine.
Okay, all right. Just checking. English language again.
It's Jamaican language.
Oh, there you go. Because we'll take it on. It's just like there's a word that's There are some African words, you know. There are words that come straight from the African language, right? That are really good African words. That mean good things. But they have criminalized them in Jamaica and call them bad word. No, it's it's very serious enough.
For example,
kaka. Kaka has a lot of meanings. I went looking for it because the word
kaka is not regarded as a bad word.
It is a bad word if you put the F1 on it. Like, you know, when you say kaka, you say it, you know? See that I can't even say it.
Sometimes it's context.
But it means prince, it means only, it means but in different. It's in almost every African language.
And if your child says it, you would want to say that the child is wrong.
Yes, and then what about that word, that B word? That Jerry Small got pulled from the air for?
The one that you follows?
Yes.
That is a good word too.
Good African word.
Well,
as a matter of fact,
ignorance.
I'm going to have to use it here in this space.
You really?
I'm going to, because I'm going to have to call right now. You know, because it's a title too, right? So
it's a title as well.
It comes down. Yes. It comes down, and it has been handed down, and there is somebody living right now on the continent of Africa. I mean, more than one, but a dignitary with that name. So you're going to tell me that I can't call him name? You know what I'm going to do? Ensure that it's in the newscast and see who will read it. I am going to put it in the sports news too. Because remember, we have African people in sports now. Because
but just in case I am reading and I am not sure, I can mispronounce it.
No. What do you going to mispronounce it? What you call it? Boom.
And then afterward, I check it out and find out the correct pronunciation. And so maybe somebody made a mistake in the news.
But you see, there are a lot of words.
But this is serious, Andrea.
It is very serious.
Because you're saying now, like kaka now is a good word.
Good word.
But we use it as a curse word. But
we don't use it as a curse word. Is that they have criminalized it.
But that is how a lot of things are in Jamaica. Things have multiple meanings. Things have contextual meanings.
Yeah, but only African things criminalized.
Oh, well.
Because we say bugger. Or we can't say bugger so easy. That's a British bad word. You cannot say it in England. Just like that. It's a bad word. It is as bad as the F word.
It comes down to ignorance again.
It is hatred of self.
But you see, that is where you fall short now,
Me?
Andrea. Yes, because
see the crisis and all.
What you are doing here now
2 minutes and 9 o'clock
is
you're
enlightening us.
Yes.
But maybe you should have started earlier.
All right.
But it's not too late.
So Fatima Samba Diop Samora was announced as the new Secretary General of FIFA last week. She's from Senegal. She's a woman. She has no sporting background, but she has a very good resume.
But she has been a manager, and she's been involved in the UN for years.
Right.
So although she has not been involved in sports, but she has been in the capacity of managing big organizations.
Right. So how you feel about it?
I have no problem with it.
Right.
Because remember, if you're able to manage properly, you can transfer your managerial skills to whatever category you're asked to serve in. I would expect. So the fact that she has not been involved in sports, her peripheral knowledge of sports maybe will help her. If it is peripheral.
But does she
because it might be deeper than we think.
Possibly, you never know. Yeah.
And sport is something that is people gravitate towards. So even if you're not deeply involved, you will have some basic knowledge of it.
This is the first woman.
Yes.
Wow, that's a big deal. And it's a black woman and an African woman and a woman, a Senegal woman. It's interesting. I hope they're not setting her up to fail. She shouldn't fail, because, it's a black woman. Easy. You see, if you ever tried to set her up to fail, we don't fail,
She might just be better than we expect.
Well, I expect a lot from her.
But time is a master.
I expect her to be black. Around the thing.
She's already black.
Yes, but black in the thinking. Black in the thinking, can I tell her, say?
Well,
you don't know it's going to happen.
Everybody connected with FIFA at that level has become tainted.
But I hope but she's not.
She is entering green.
Right.
So, let's hope she stays green. But a lot of times it is not, a lot of time it is not the person's real, you know. It's to a large extent, I still believe it is a system.
That's what you have been saying for years
now. And
nothing has changed in that regard with you.
It is manifesting, you know, because a lot of these people who have been charged and who are now pleading guilty are realizing that they were doing something wrong that they figured was not wrong. They thought it was a part of the system.
Because it was a norm. It was a norm in that system.
And that is why when
they have lost their moral compass.
So that is why when them calaboose them now, them can't say, but me never done nothing wrong.
What do you mean by calaboose?
When they hold them.
Because I've never heard that word.
Yes, I'm using Jamaican words this morning. When them corner them.
How you spell it?
I don't know.
I've never heard that word. Calaboose.
Maybe COLLAR -BOOSE.
BOUSSE.
Yeah, ask Carlin Cooper.
Calaboose.
Ask Carlin Cooper.
yeah, Carlin, how you spell calaboose?
But what they're realizing is that what they thought they were doing right, when it is pointed out to them, they say, "Oh, it was wrong." So them just plead guilty. And I still believe so.
I know, but you see, that's because they've lost a moral compass, and when you lose a moral compass,
remember Jack Warner had said, you know, if you want to be a Christian, you don't come here.
Don't go to FIFA. But let me not go there. Let me not go there.
Yes.
Right. Let me not go down the road there because we don't have the time.
So that is playing out.
All right. Thank you, Albert.
So if you notice all the good gentlemen,
yes,
that people had so much high regards for,
yes,
a lot of people are still in shock. Jeff Webb, for example.
Whose position is she? Who was in this position that Fatima is in?
Jerome
Valke.
Yeah, you remember that one with the South Africa 10 million?
Yeah, Secretary General.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well,
Blatter was there at one time too.
Yes.
Yeah, that was his position before.
I'm gonna watch her. We're gonna watch her and see what happens.
Yes.
Yeah, because she's gonna get more scrutiny than most. I mean, it's
naturally, not surprising.
Right.
It will happen. That's how we treat women when we are in such high profile.
We watch and see. Thank you very much, Mr. Williams.
Have a good one.
What good?
National Supply has the largest selection of tools, industrial, construction, welding, and safety equipment, and nobody has more parts and solutions than them. Nobody. Call 969-6380 in Kingston and 971-0020 in Montego Bay, because National Supply has it. The time by National Supply is
now 3 minutes after 9 o'clock.
When we lose our African connection, we lose our rural connection. When we disconnect ourselves from Africa, we cease to be a world people. Without the African connection, we are a disjointed people, begging for the entry into somebody else's house.
Okay, thank you so much to our friends and co-hosts on the social media. Thank you so much. Selector Princess, at Citizen Girl, at Kevoy Stevens, at Princess K Radio, at Irie Daughter, at Champion, at Bubbler 35. No, I see you change the thing, Champion Bubbler. Okay, I'm going to check it. Check it. At so many others, at Jabur and Kuma on the Facebook. Thank you so much. I mean, quite an active participation and interaction going on the social media. So join the social media pages, Kabu at Kabu, and participate there also while the program is going on. It's beautiful what's happening there. Just before we go quickly to the Mayor of St. Anne's Bay, we're going to be unveiling our Marcus Garvey, Molamu Marcus Messiah Garvey celebration coming up shortly. But just before we do that, we'll speak with the Mayor of St. Anne's Bay. And right before the Mayor, let me go quickly through this. The Israeli Defense Minister, we understand that he has resigned. He has resigned saying that there's too much racism in Israel. He says he fought with all his might against manifestations of extremism, violence and racism in the Israeli society. His resignation comes only days after the Deputy Chief of Staff, Major General Yari Golan, compared modern-day Israel to nauseating trends in Nazi-era Germany. And that is exactly what is happening in Israel. And sometimes we talk about it, we think that everybody in the hierarchy are in bed with the president and the prime minister for the racism against black people, in particular in Israel. Well, here we have resignations, and I commend these men for stepping down. The defense minister has resigned, citing racism and extremism. The chief of staff, the major general, has said that racism in Israel is reminiscent of nauseating trends in Nazi-era Germany. That is a big lick. And the Israeli Prime Minister, we understand, has offered the position of defense minister to the right-wing ultra-nationalist politician Lieberman. Lieberman is considered to be one of the most hawkish politicians in Israel. So here we have resignations in Israel pertaining and directly related to racism. We'll talk more about this and on. Well, the Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has apologized again. He has formally apologized this time in the House of Commons for the Komagata Maru incident in 1914. That's a Komagata Maru incident in 1914 in which hundreds of Sikh, Muslim and Hindu passengers were denied entry to Canada and forced to return to an uncertain and untimely violent fate in India. The move was widely acknowledged as to be aimed at keeping Indians out of Canada. Then Premier of British Columbia, Sir Richard McBride, said at the time, and I quote, he said, "And we always have in mind the necessity of keeping this a white man's country. We always have in mind the necessity of keeping Canada a white man's country." We're going to leave it right there. We understand that a second girl who was believed to be among the more than 200 schoolgirls kidnapped by Boko Haram in a raid has been found, but the UK Guardian is reporting that she's actually not from the 200. Her name is Sarah Luka. She was kidnapped by Boko Haram, but not from the 200. So we're keeping our eyes on that. Also, bring back our girls, still a big deal. All right, we're going to go to the phone lines now to speak with Mayor Desmond Gilmore. All right, Mayor Desmond Gilmore, Mayor of St. Anne's Bay, on the phone lines. We're looking forward to tomorrow, which is Labor Day here in Jamaica. Mayor Gilmore, we're going to be talking to him about the activities in St. Anne, because we are actually situated in St. Anne. There's a national project. You'll hear much more about the national project in Portmore. Come tomorrow. We'll be covering every parish tomorrow in the program, starting with the wake-up call, then with Easy Skanking, and throughout the day you'll be hearing so much more about the projects. But this morning we're focusing on the project in St. Anne. Mayor Gilmore, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Kabu. How are you this morning?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am great. It's a wonderful day, is it not?
Yes, it is. Really beautiful.
Brilliant sunshine.
Yes. So it's looking good for tomorrow. Hope the weather holds that way.
Holds, yeah.
Where is the Labor Day project, the parish Labor Day project?
Well, the parish project is going to be at the Alexandria Market site.
Yes. And
so we're going to be doing some cleaning up and some facelift and so on right there.
All right.
In keeping with the theme for Labor Day this year is for health's sake, keep it clean.
For health
bearing in mind, for health's sake,
yes,
keep it clean. Bearing in mind the challenges we're having with the ZigV and so on, so we're trying to do as much cleanup and to make our environment as safe.
I think it's a pity we can't do a Labor Day project on the crime. For health's sake, stop the killing.
No, the crime requires more than just a Labor Day.
I know. A concerted effort, though. You know?
Yes, certainly. For
health's sake, stop the killing.
All right. Well, and it will still be health, physical health, yes?
Of course. So the Alexandria Market, the work that's going to be done there will involve what? Washing down?
Well, yes, the market is now open, so to speak, to the general public. It is hardly utilized, but we want to start doing that again. And we are cleaning up. Unfortunately, the community has been using it as some kind of a dump.
Okay.
And so on. So we are cleaning up, putting in garbage receptacle and so on. So just improve the general condition and the cleanliness of the place.
All right. So this is so go ahead and just encourage people to.
That's the parish project, but there are I think every councillor is undertaking some kind of a project within their respective divisions outside of that.
Okay.
So, for example, in the Beechertown, Councillor Bell is building like 3 barbecue setups in Beechertown, Hindstown, and Franklintown.
Mm-hmm. And I know that. I know that also that we spoke to Devon Evans a few weeks ago, and he told us of the project that's going to be undertaken at the Marcus Garvey Centre in St. Anne's Bay. So I think that is also happening, that people are asked to go there to assist there.
Yes. The Wattown Police Station will be in for some attention from the Gibraltar Division. It will be getting a facelift. In Boroughbridge, the Faith Fellowship Basic School and the Clarksonville Basic School. The Faith Fellowship is in Cascade.
Mm-hmm.
The Rotary Club of Ocho is doing the guard room at the Ocho Police Station, and the Solid Waste is giving some attention to the Transportation Center in Ocho.
Okay.
In Lime Hall, we are building a room for a needy citizen who, has no place. And we are doing some cleaning at the playfield.
Yes.
A bathroom is going to be built at the clinic in Steertown.
Yes.
And also there's a 92-year-old citizen who lives alone, and the community is going to be coming out to help him with some repairs to the house and some cleaning.
Okay. All right. So lots happening in St. Anne, and once again, the
lots
parish...
happening, and we're trying to get the community to come out. Remember the spirit of volunteerism. This is what it is all about.
And the Alexandria Market is a parish project.
It's the parish
Should people be taking anything when they come?
Yes.
Should they be taking...
Yes, certainly. If you have a paintbrush, if you have a rake, if you have a machete, take, depending on where you're going.
Yes.
And I want to mention Sturgestown to Councillor Garvey down at Mount Edgecombe is also doing a dwelling for a gentleman that is physically challenged.
Okay.
And I really want to say, congratulations to all those who are participating.
Mm-hmm.
Money, the park and the community center. And some of those who are participating, who have volunteered their help, is thanks to SAGE. SAGE is an organization through the FDC. Which is acronym for St. Anne Interagency Network for Transforming Social Services.
Yes.
I want to say thanks to the Rotary Club, the Optimist Club, and I must mention Mr. Bicknell of Tankwell, who is providing much of the building material for the house that we are going to be building for that person.
Yes.
Joel Runaway Bay for helping with some lunches, refreshment, and so on. And all the citizens of St. Anne.
All right.
Who are civil-minded and will be coming out tomorrow to assist in whatever project in their community just to make our place a little cleaner, a little better, and doing something for someone.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much. All right.
For the opportunity. I thank you, Irie, for giving us this opportunity to say, to invite the citizens out to come and
Totally at a time. Thank you so much, Mayor.
Okay, you're welcome.
Right. Mayor Gilmore of St. Anne's Bay.
Speak truth to the people. To identify the enemy is to free the mind. Free the mind of the people. Speak to the mind of the people. Speak truth.
All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa. In this segment of the program, we're going to be unveiling our tribute to Morlamu Marcus Mosiah Garvey, which is scheduled for August 21. This year we're partnering in our tribute with the Roots Foundation. The Roots Foundation based in Florida, but with one of its directors, at least, based here in Jamaica. And they're joining me in the studio, Dr. Michael Barnett, a director of Roots Foundation and president of TAFARI, the Association for Africans Reclaiming Identity, the Jamaican representative of the Roots Foundation. And Jadi is in the studio with us. He is the president of the Roots Foundation. We're very happy to have you both with us in the studio. Thank you so much for coming in. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Kabu. Give thanks, respect.
All
Greetings,
right.
Sister Kabu.
Greetings.
Yeah,
all right, so we say unveiling, but last week we did talk with Carlos Ejeje from South Africa, who's himself and his band will be here as part of the tribute to Morlemo Marcus Messiah Garvey. But in terms of our partnership and one of our main guest speakers for the project this year, this is what we're doing this morning. Also, others who will be participating. There's a scholarship involved. We're very happy to hear that out of Canada. Also, a group out of Canada. So we'll be talking this morning to Barbara Sankofa, who will be taking in the Ubuntu group out of Canada. But first, let us start with the Roots Foundation and you, Jadi. Tell us a little bit about the Roots Foundation.
Well, Roots Foundation is a not-for-profit organization, like you said, based in Florida. We're a community outreach organization. Our mission is to educate and uplift our community, bringing information that is not readily available and dealing with topics that most people are afraid to touch, that is impacting on our community.
Yeah. How long have you been in operation?
Well, we are going now in our 14th year.
And I know one of the things that you do, because we always book up. We started out by booking up, but later on it became, it is the thing, the Marcus Garvey celebrations every year in Florida without fail.
Yes, we have been hosting that now going 13 years, and it has grown, from a low to a high and continues to grow. Give thanks.
Are you all going to be here this year?
We're going to be here.
Michael, are they all going to be?
We're going to be
Yeah, man, they're going to be right here for the big one on the 21st of August, right here at IRI FM.
And as a matter of fact, Sister Kabu, you were one of our awardees for the last year's community award. And
that is true.
And I have your award right here.
I have the plaque right there.
Yes, your plaque right here to present you.
Thank you, Jadib.
Yeah, man.
All right, so Michael, we've been working together for many moons with you yourself individually, and it's really a pleasure to partner with you and the Roots Foundation in a serious way this year, especially because we have been really doing the very same things at the very same times of year anyway. And so when you called about your very special guest that you're carrying in for this year, it was immediately a foregone conclusion as to how this will be treated. Tell us about your very special guest who's coming in.
Well, yes, Dr. Umar Johnson is popular speaker now on the American network. He is the great grandnephew of Frederick Douglass. Also, he is inspired by the works of Marcus Garvey. I mean, he himself has said that. But very notably, I want to tell you, Kabu, that it was me and Jadi that brought him to Jamaica, first of all, in 2011. He wasn't well known by the Jamaican populace then, but I think he's better known now.
I think so.
But 2011, notably, I did a Black History Month lecture in February, and this had Muta Baruka, Taurus Riley, and Umar Johnson. So it was a sort of star-studded, powerful Black History Month event. I did, I do program Black History Month events at the UA campus, out of principle. And but that was well attended, and it was a powerful event. Jadi was there, and hopefully he still has the video footage for that event. But Umar made a very strong impression on the public. He wasn't known, but we brought him on for them to give him a feel of what he had to say.
And I think even then, and after that too, and why I feel this is such a good partnership is that you also called me, was it last year?
I called it last year.
To say Dr. Umar Johnson is somebody you should pay attention to as being possibly one of your guest speakers for one of your Marcus Garvey events. And Big A, that's Ainsworth Higgins here at IRFM, before that sent me a video clip of Dr. Johnson. And it's interesting. And then there's so many other people who had written to me over the years to say, Dr. Umar Johnson is a candidate for your Marcus Garvey celebrations. He's saying the things that you guys are saying you should have have him on this. So that when you said he was coming in, I was like, wow, yeah, immediately. We have been following him on his YouTube channels and so on.
Yeah.
So it's
Sister
really
Kabu,
brilliant, yes.
I think you forget that you also interviewed him.
That is what I'm not. He's on the phone line now. Yeah, please. You told me that, and I'm trying to remember that.
Because
yes.
we were at Bubble Hill at the time, and
Yes.
it was a calling interview.
Yes, I remember the calling interview. But as you said, it was a very short interview at the time. We're really, really very pleased to welcome him in. And we're going to have other speakers on the event who will tell you about later on, and other performances and so on. It's going to be one of those events that I think it's a coming together of so many different forces in terms of the forces who have always been aligned, united in the struggle for liberation. The theme this year for our tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey is liberation for education. Breaking the cycle of mental control, of course, is the overall theme. I think it's right up Dr. Johnson's street. We're going to go to the phone lines now where he's standing by. Dr. Umar Johnson, thank you so much for joining us on the Africa Forum. Welcome to the space.
Thank you. Good morning.
All right. We're really, really very honored and happy to have you in this space, but also to have you come into Jamaica in August as our very special guest speaker on our tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey. Thank you so much for that.
So the honor is mine. Looking forward to it.
All right. We have in the studio with us members of the Roots Foundation, of course, Jadi, who is the president, and of course Dr. Michael Barnett, history man, is also in the studio with us, and I know that you have been in constant communication with them. We are partnering with them to have you in on our in the IRFM's event this year. Thank you for that again. Now, the theme this year, Dr. Johnson, is liberation for education. I said earlier that that is up your street, and it really is, because this is a concern. Education for liberation is a concern, a personal concern of yours. Talk to us about that.
Certainly. Now, I heard you mention education for liberation, but you also mentioned a sub-theme. Did I hear you say something about breaking the chains of mental control? Did I hear?
Breaking the cycle of mental control.
Okay. Well, yes, ma'am. That's right up my alley, because I'm both an educator and a psychologist. And obviously the two disciplines overact, because psychology is actually a parent of education. And one of the biggest problems I find as I travel the world with education systems that teach our children is that most of them still operate under a colonialist mentality. It's still a colonialist narrative, and it is still a white supremacist doctrine. So number one, we have to keep in mind that the only way our children will properly be educated is if we do it. That's number one. Number two, as long as we allow our oppressor to educate our children, they will never be prepared for the world that they will receive, because the primary goal of education is not learning how to read or write or count. The primary goal of education is how to master the science that your enemy has used to subdue you, how to take power, wield power, control power, and protect power. If you're not teaching African children about acquiring power, then they're being miseducated.
And so that the process, because we know what we know what the reality is in the African diaspora and on the continent of Africa, is that the curriculum is still the colonial and neo-colonial curriculum. We know that our enemies are still teaching our children. What then does that mean for the race?
Well, here's the thing. Whoever controls the mind of a child until the age of 12 will pretty much control the thinking of that child until the day that they die. When you're looking at brain science, cognitive science, the first 12 years of life are critical, because they are the conditioning years. That is when you learn your values. That is when you learn your core beliefs. That is when you develop your lifelong habits. So whoever controls that child's education until 12 will pretty much control the adult mind of that child as well. The mistake that we often make is we give our children's minds over to our oppressors. And then after they graduate from high school, we spend the rest of their life trying to re-Africanize them. That is totally backwards. You don't give the best years away and then spend the rest of the years trying to re-Africanize. You should be Africanizing them from birth, because it is very difficult to change mental conditioning. Slaves will often remain so even when set free, because they were already conditioned to be that way until the day that they die. So getting our own schools is absolutely critical. And of course, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey talked about the need for education. The UNIA ACL had 2 universities and an uncountable amount of schools. So it's very key. Education is not just about literacy. Education is about preparation for liberation.
All right, and that is just a synopsis and a hint of what we can expect to hear from Dr. Johnson when he comes in. But even before that, Dr. Umar Johnson, we know that we'll be talking to you, and I hope that you'll be available for as many Sundays as possible that we can link with you inside of the Africa Forum as we set the ground before you come in. This, of course, is not your first trip to Jamaica. You've been here twice before. Your own impressions of Jamaica, and are you looking forward to the next trip?
Oh, very much so. I have a lot of social network friends from Jamaica. I'm very well known on the island.
Yeah.
I'm very well known on many of the islands. In fact, I'll be going to 3 of them in the next month. But, you know, being a Garveyite, and even on my mother's side of the family, I understand that there's Jamaican ancestry on my mother's side of the family that I still need to study more of. I'm related to Frederick Douglass on my father's side of the family. But it's a special place. I have remained in contact with many other brothers and sisters from Jamaica that I met since the last times that I was there. So, you know, it's a special place to me. Always visiting the grave of Marcus Messiah Garvey is always something that I like to do. I get to visit Frederick Douglass's grave every year here in the States. I don't get to visit Mr. Garvey's graves as often, so I'm looking forward to coming back.
And I know you're actually very busy these last few months, or the upcoming months. You're going to be extremely busy. I've been looking at your social media pages. You're going to be traveling across the United States, outside of the United States, and so on. How do you manage that? I mean, that is a lot of travel.
Well, actually, for the past 5 years, I've been the most requested black scholar on the planet. Consecutively. It manages itself. It manages itself. I took a break March and April. I didn't do any speaking whatsoever because I saw the need to regroup, refresh, and also I'm a psychologist, which means I have psychological evaluations I need to do in the schools for our children, so I needed to take some time off to do that. But it actually works out because being a school psychologist, you can test the child at school, and then you can take the material on the road with you to actually type up your psychological evaluation. So, for example, I'm in New York City today. I'll be speaking in Brooklyn this afternoon, and so I brought my materials from Philadelphia for the students who I evaluated, and then it's my responsibility to make sure I get those evaluations done in the hotel in time for the school to have them. So it works itself out. It does get a little challenging at times, but it becomes my responsibility to carve out that time to make sure I'm still free enough to conduct my practice as a school psychologist and hit the road at the same time.
Yes, it's pretty commendable. And you talk about the schools and the evaluations that you're doing. You've also authored the book Psychoacademic Holocaust, the Special Education and ADHD Wars Against Black Boys. This is pretty interesting. We've been talking about this over the last few weeks. And just about 2 weeks ago, actually, we had our sister Yenenga in the studio with us. She's now in the Cameroon. But we had mentioned this, and it's something that she brought up in her book also. This diagnosis of ADHD. You have couched this in the war against black boys. Do you want to take a minute or two and help us to understand that?
Yes. ADHD is one of the greatest weapons of mass destruction used against black boys globally in our lifetime. It is nothing more than a Wall Street publicly traded drug company strategy to get paid off of fatherless black boys. ADD came to us in 1980. The American Psychiatric Association, under the influence and payment by the drug companies, created this disorder known as ADD. It was no coincidence that that came in 1980 because that is the same year that the CIA dropped crack cocaine off in many of the black ghettos in America. And it is also the same year that the federal criminal injustice system began its mass incarceration of black males. So simply put, as they began to destabilize the black family by taking the father out of it, they came up with a psychological diagnosis that they could put on those fatherless boys and get paid off of them in the name of Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Medigate, Cycler, Risperdal, Prozac, Depakote, Paxil, and the list goes on and on. They're making no less than $30 billion a year drugging up black boys with these different medications based off this ADD, which is now, since 1987, known as ADHD. I refer to it as ain't no daddy at home disorder, or absent daddy from the home disorder, because 85% of African boys diagnosed with ADHD don't have their father. They don't need the doctor. They need their daddy.
Oh, goodness. And, you know, interestingly enough, this is a diagnosis that is now very common in the Jamaican education system, shockingly enough. So that it's not just, it's something that's affecting the African diaspora, continental African, wherever we are. Our boys especially are getting diagnosed, are being diagnosed with this disorder. And
yes, ma'am. It's in Canada. It's in Canada. It's in Europe. It's even in Africa. It's in Africa now. Remember, capitalism and racism is always looking for fresh attempts to plant its dirty flag. And so whenever you're in the business of making money, you're constantly looking for what? New markets for your product. New markets. So when Ritalin needs a new market, when Prozac needs a new market, when Cycler needs a new market, what better place to go than the Caribbean or to Africa, when 80% of the inhabitants are of African descent, and where you may have a government or parliament who's open to hearing white people's ideas about black people's mental health issues. When we talk about self-determination from a Garveyite perspective, one of the things we need African countries to become more of is more self-determined in the area of mental health. Stop letting the white mental scientists of Europe and America come into a black country and tell you what is normal and abnormal behavior for a black child. Behavior is culturally determined. Behavior is defined by the culture. So no outside culture can come into Jamaica and tell your school system, your minister of education, your president what normal and abnormal behavior is, because they are not African.
You know, we've just last night, I don't know if this story has hit the mainstream news yet, but the World Bank yesterday said that it was launching a $500 million fast disbursing insurance fund. I saw this, it kind of clicked. I said, okay, let me see what's happening here. The fund is to combat deadly pandemics in poor countries, creating the world's first insurance market for pandemic risk. Now, as you talk about, you know, making money off the backs of poor people and of African people in particular, here we have another big World Bank con, which is going to be in the fine print of all the trade deals and of all the aids that we collect, as is ADHD, as is HIV, and so on. How do we get ourselves from under the foot, then, of the World Bank, of the Bretton Woods institutions, of the IMF, when every turn we make, there is a new system being put in place to collect more from us as a people, as a race?
Under the science of white supremacy and military science in general, before you take from your enemy, you must give something. And so the loans that come from the World Bank and the IMF to the Caribbean countries and the African countries are not really loans. They are setups. They are takeovers. They are strategies put in place to make it look like you're being helped when all you're doing is being hurt. The IMF and the World Bank, in order for you to get money from them, let's look at the three things any country must admit to or accept to get that money from the IMF and the World Bank, both of which are federal institutions in the United States, branches of the federal government, not government agencies themselves, but they're pretty much overseen by the executive branch of the president. Number one, you must accept their population control measure. You do not get money from the World Bank or IMF unless you are into sexually confused lifestyle. You have to support abortion, hysterectomy, their whole birth control agenda. If you do not accept population control agenda, then you don't get money. Number two, you must open up your markets to foreign exploitation. That means what? That means in order to get that so-called loan, because it's not really a loan, it's a takeover, you have to be willing to allow Western corporations to come into Jamaica and compete with Jamaican industries, okay, for the same market. So, for example, let's say Jamaica produces its own coffee. Jamaica makes its own coffee. Well, guess what? Once you take that loan from the IMF, you got to let Maxwell Coffee in, you got to let Tetley Coffee in, and so now you can no longer protect your native industry because the World Bank says if you want this money, you have to have a free market. Yeah. You have to let our companies come into Jamaica and compete with your companies, which ultimately sabotages your national market. And now you have Jamaican people buying products from white folk that can actually be grown in Jamaica, but those industries were destroyed because the country had to open up to a free market in order to get the loan. That's number two. And number three, and one of the most negative impacts of this World Bank IMF loan policy, is that they tax you. The interest rate that they put on these loans from the World Bank and IMF are taxed at like 1,000%. You can never pay the loan back. It's designed so you never can pay it back, so they can always have a say-so in your governmental affairs, your political affairs, and your economic affairs. The solution is to stop taking the money. CARICOM, stop taking the money. Okay, African Union, stop taking the money. This is not a loan. It is a takeover.
All right. Well said. I heard you responding there in the meantime, Jadi. You want to come forward? Yes.
Well, I'm saying what he's describing is globalization, you know. At
work.
Yes.
Yes. Dr. Umar Johnson, I want to thank you so much. Michael, is there anything you want to say quickly to Dr. Johnson as we go to the next caller?
Yes. Well, I'll just say, I look forward to having the in Jamaica come August, I don't know. I mean, you can't have enough conscientization and at least have people to be critically aware of what's going on. I have to be honest with you, I am definitely not for IMF policy. I mean, we had it in the 70s under Michael Manley. I thought a lesson was learned, but apparently not. Here we are again, I mean, the South...
Deeper in than ever before.
The so-called underdeveloped countries, they're in the worst shape in going in bed with the IMF. I mean, no real sustainable development is going to come out of that. That is my perspective. I mean, obviously, some people will beg to differ. Well, but there has to be another way than the IMF.
Well, you see, that's what we're talking about.
Breaking another way.
That's what we talk about, breaking the cycle.
We have to break the cycle
of mental control.
Yes. Garvey says self-determination. Let's practice. I mean, he's born in Jamaica. Let's start honoring the teachings of Marcus Garvey. He set the template. We're not following it. Everybody, the leadership, everybody, I said, please, let's try his policies.
Get the curriculum in the schools.
Well, that's a story in itself. We're trying with the curriculum, and that's another conversation.
To develop our own. It is. And we will have that conversation. Dr. Umar Johnson, my pleasure talking with you. I'm very, very happy to welcome you on behalf of IRA FM into Jamaica, and we will talk to you hopefully next week, if not the week after, but we really want to be talking to you leading up into your coming to Jamaica as part of a tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Thank you so much, my brother.
Thank you. Peace and love.
All right. The Prince of Pan-Africanism, Dr. Umar Johnson. We take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, we're back with you inside of the Africa Forum. Sandra Douglas on Facebook. Thank you so much, my sister. You raised a very good point, and I'll answer it another time about the BBC and why I went ahead and write the story. Now, it was part of a process, and if you're going to learn about the process, sometimes you have to give a bit to learn a bit more. So that's what I did, and I stayed there, and I did learn a whole lot more. And also to all the others who are posting on Facebook, thank you so much. We're going to go to the phone line to speak with our brother Sankofa, who is in Canada. All right, Sankofa actually is with the Ubuntu group, and we might have to push back that interview until next week. That's the thing, because with the Ubuntu group, they're coming in from Canada as part of a tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. They're going to be performing. 26 of them, I think, are young people from Ubuntu who will be here. Also, there's a scholarship, but to be able to be eligible for the scholarship, you have to be part of the Africa Youth Forum. It is what it is. History Man is in the studio. Morning, History Man. Greetings, Hotep.
Greetings, Hotep.
Right. You know what? I'm going to give you the mic because I know you're a history man. I know you're informative, and I know you can do it. Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. Go ahead.
For sure.
Yeah.
Garveyites. Chop. On a catchy history about Marcus Garvey. On a catchy history, yes, on a catchy history. On a catchy history about Marcus Garvey. On a catchy history, yes, on a catchy. Now 1887 born Marcus Garvey down in a Sentence Bay, down in the country. The man moved to Kingston as a royal king. A great printer, him work with Benjamin. 1904, them catch them fear because of the man journalistic career. 1908, Garvey get a big fight because him take part in the trade union strike. 1909, assistant secretary with all those work Garvey could no bother. 1910, travel to Costa Rica, Panama, Ecuador, and Nicaragua, Honduras, Colombia, and Venezuela. 1911, return to Jamaica. 1912, Garvey go to England because he want to check out them education. When I love Garvey, you shout hip hip hooray. 1914, them from the UNIA. 1916, travel to USA. 1917, them on a tour same way. 1918, them on a teach same way. One God, one aim, and one destiny. Them eat the profit through them have bad mind. 1919, them have the Black Star Line. 1920, in first convention. Visit Cuba in 1921. 1922, he make the first petition. For all black people at the League of Nations. Boom! On the catchy history about Marcus Garvey. On the catchy. On the catchy history about Marcus Garvey. On the catchy history, yes, on the catchy. Now 1924, me just can't figure Garvey gone to prison just through them on black. 1925, I no must remember them lock up Garvey up in Atlanta. How are them call him political prisoner? 1927, Garvey come from prison. 1928, Garvey in a politics. Colonial people them get jumpy. Whoever the people's political party. 1928, them put him in a prison. Him spend 3 months and him no know after war. When Garvey come out, him have to pay for. How much him pay? £200 paper. 1930, born Marcus Jr. The 17th of the month of September. Marcus Garvey headquarter for all black man. That was Eloise Park in 1931. 1932, news publication. Daily newspaper for all black man. 1933, born him son Julius. 16th of August, none for them get jealous. 1934, another convention. 1935, Garvey moved to England because of the colonial oppression. 1937, visit the Caribbean. 1938, another convention. Him wife and children moved to Jamaica land. 1940, them same dead at England. Go back, go read the book Philosophy Opinion. In the winning at this time, you feel look for the man.
Informative history man. I'm sorry, we're going to have to cut in history man, and it's just because of the time. Thank you so much, informative history man. You'll hear much more from him throughout the period leading up to the event, and then on the day the 21st, he mentioned the travels of Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey. This we're cutting in here, not with so much good news, but we're going to Costa Rica, where there's a Liberty Hall in Costa Rica and a big UNIA organization. My brother Rasbuki is there. Rasbuki, good morning.
Good morning, in Africa, good morning.
Good morning. Good to hear you.
Can you hear me?
I'm hearing you loud and clear, and good to hear you from Costa Rica. I know that Liberty Hall, as we get ready to pay tribute to Mwalimu Marcus Messiah Garvey, that the the Liberty Hall, the compound, the building in Costa Rica has been burned to the ground. When did that happen?
That happened, I would say, on the 29th exactly of April, yes, of this year. That's a couple of weeks ago. And it's a sad thing that took place. Everybody's so sad. You could see the sun, it's like everything was cloudy. You could feel like, I felt like somebody died in the building. There was nobody died in the building, but it was such a thing that very sad. The whole country was like on that day.
Do we know what caused the fire?
Well, it seemed as if it was like they had some coffee, some new people doing some coffee things in one of the office or the room area, and I guess they left some carelessness of some people. But I don't know if it's the physical, if it's only the spiritual. It's really mixed up. What happened? Really, it's something really. I think I would see it on the spiritual part that happened. You know.
Yeah.
It happened physically, like real fire. 75% of it was burned, and right now we're in I'm joining with them for the rebuilding. Like we're going making funds around and doing shows and doing stuff to help put it back.
Okay.
It's very sad in Costa Rica. It's very sad. It's a very sad thing.
I can imagine, and I saw the picture that you posted. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking I'm going to put some of those pics on my Facebook page so that listeners can go there and look at them. But you're also on Facebook, so we can find you there, and also for Liberty Hall. Is there a way that Jamaicans who are listening today, or persons who are listening across the globe on the internet at irfm.net, what can they do? What is being asked of the wider public to be done?
They're very open. Well, it would be the UNIA Limon. It's branch 300. It's one of Marcus Garvey's really main and active branch that burned down. Wow. It's on August 31st, when you see the amount of people standing out, just like if Marcus Garvey was there preaching and telling people, it's one of the best and the greatest branch of Marcus Garvey. I mean, we have to, Jamaica ourselves have to be a part of this rebuild.
All right. Well, we'll get that information. We'll pass it on as time goes by. But thank you so much for reaching out to us. Thank you so much for letting me know and for making yourself available to just talk to us about this. Is there a projection on when the rebuilding will be completed?
No, and that's the thing where I'm scared personally if it will, it will build again, because the thing is that our black people have drive away from the self-built, and they're going too much to the government, and that's where it's really ticklish. That's why it's very ticklish that the way it is. I don't know when they will put it back, if it's going to be in a year or two, or but it can't stay too long, because these places, everybody is so vile, and these places turn to be so vile, right? And the crime and the non-culture and the ignorance. So that's why I'm very worried, and that's why I'm trying to personally to put my hands in and see how we could, get this knowledge back up.
Thank you so much for that. We'll keep in touch with you, and please let us know how it is progressing and what you need for us to announce. You're Jamaican living in Costa Rica. Do you want to say hello to anybody here quickly before we wrap?
Yes, I'll say hello to my sisters. My sister in Dover Castle. That's in Dover Castle. That's in Radio St. Catherine. Yes, and all the people of Jamaica, one perfect love, Rastafari guide. Let's stay close to Marcus Garvey teaching as Imperial Majesty. We need it in this time.
Thank you so much, my
brother. Panama and all over.
All right, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay, Ras Buki there in Costa Rica. Going to throw it back now to our partners, Roots Foundation, in the studio, because we are almost out of time. A lot to talk about, little time. It's surprising how time can fly. But Jadi, for the Roots Foundation's activities that usually happen in Florida itself, tell us a little bit about that. What do you usually do, and how will that be impacted by what is happening here in Jamaica?
We usually keep what we call the Garvey Extravaganza, and it's a full program, entertainment, edutainment, community awards, and so forth. We'll be doing it a little earlier this year, so we can be here in Jamaica for this program. So it's not much difference.
What does it mean to you and to the Roots Foundation to be in a partnership with IRFM on this event?
It's a big thing. Big thing.
Okay.
Because it's the home of Garvey. Even though we've been doing what we do in Florida, this is also our home. So it is very important. It is a pleasure and a privilege for us to partner with IRA FM on this occasion.
Right.
You know.
And as I said before, you do more than just this activity. The Roots Foundation is much wider. You're involved in so much
Yes,
more.
we-
You mentioned that earlier. Talk about some of what else you're involved.
Well, we do, for one thing, we have adopted the Haile Selassie High School, and helping to maintain it, rebuild it. We do a lot of after-school tutoring, mentoring. We put on a lot of exhibits, like one running at the University Museum right now. We did also the 100-year Garvey UNI exhibit in Florida, which was opened up by Julius Garvey. So, we're on the ground working.
Right, and the exhibit that's running at the university right now, just remind our listeners about that, Michael, and encourage persons to go see that.
Yeah, that's one of the tangible outcomes of the 50th anniversary visit that we just had, and it's running right now as a photographic exhibit of Haile Selassie's visit to Jamaica 50 years ago, up till May 27th. So we just have a week more. So I encourage all those who want to see it. Between 10 in the morning and 4 p.m. is the time that UE Museum is open Monday to Friday. I don't know if it's going to be open this Monday because it's a bank holiday, but certainly the other 4 days. Friday, unfortunately, will be pulled down, so Friday will be the last day. So I urge those who have not seen it. It's a great photographic exhibit of Haile Selassie's trip
And
around the Caribbean.
well.
Yes,
and a lot of information.
Yeah, man. So that is the UE Museum, though, is the regional headquarters. It's the other side of the road from the main Mona campus. The other thing, very quickly, is there's also
Before
another.
you go very quickly, the executive producer
Yeah.
for the Marley Marcus Bazaar
Yeah.
Garbage Tribute is standing right behind me.
Yeah.
Mr. Big A.
Okay, it's a
Yes,
big
sir,
A.
big up,
Say hello, Big A.
Yeah.
The executive producer. Because I already called your name. You sent me the link. You sent me the link. So he sent me the link with Dr. Umar Johnson way back in the day and said, get Dr. Umar Johnson.
All right. Very quickly though, Kabu.
Yes, Michael.
Yeah, very quickly. There's another.
No, we're going to take the 2 minutes from him. No worry, man.
All right.
We're about 2 minutes. Yeah, go on.
Give thanks. There's another exhibit also showing a Victory Day exhibit on the main library on the Mona campus of UE, which highlights Haile Selassie's Victory Day speech, the medals he awarded to soldiers who fought in that war. I'm talking about May the 5th, 1941.
Yes.
We just recently celebrated the 75th year, the Diamond Jubilee of Victory Day, which was just this month earlier. So we had an exhibit opened there as well, and on that day, Roots Foundation also donated formally the RAP program, which is the Written Rastafari Archives Project. So what Roots Foundation has done is they have archived all of the quintessential Rastafari publications, J-Hog, Rastafari International News, Roots Reggae and Culture Magazine, Rasta Voice. All of these have been digitalized and are available on a special website to tertiary institutions, secondary institutions, but they made a special donation to UE, and the deputy principal, Professor Kara, officially received that on Victory Day. So that is available to our students at UE. Also, very quickly, tangibly, for the Haile Selassie High School, Prince Amias is going to donate 600,000 Jamaican dollars to the school. This is coming out of the visit recently, and no, we Roots Foundation will be making $100,000 contribution.
Oh,
we urge,
brilliant.
yes, man. So we urge all stakeholders, anyone interested in the school. My thing is, word is cheap. The actions speak louder than words.
Yeah.
So let's do something for the school. Let's throw some money in the pot.
Education is essential.
Yes, very quickly. Last
Education
thing.
for liberation. Thank you.
On
so
that
much.
African Liberation Day coming up next week, as we know, on Wednesday. But in light of the fact that I know the mayor's office is doing something on Wednesday, and we're not going to clash with that, on Thursday, May 26th, at UTEC, where we're partnering with the African Cultural Renaissance Movement at UTEC. I'm going to, and I endorse it, and I'm also one of the promoters, a special Beverly Hamilton Tribute Symposium, because we're honoring the memory of Beverly Hamilton for what she did for African Liberation Day. We're doing a symposium called Seeking a Pan-African Ethos that Transcends Religious Boundaries. Once again, Seeking a Pan-African Ethos that Transcends Religious Boundaries. We'll have Minister Clive Muhammad from the Nation of Islam, Ras Miguel Lawn, right here from the Rastafari family, Dr. Rosalie Hamilton, who is a relative of Beverly Hamilton, and Ashley Hamilton and Rosalie will be putting on a tribute, special tribute for Beverly Hamilton. And this is at the LT Lecture Room 4, Thursday the 26th.
Thank you so much, Michael. We really do have to go. We really do have to go.
6 to 9 on the Thursday. Respect.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And